And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bullock versus Green. Step forward, please.
25-year-old student Corus Bullock is suing former friend, 25-year-old student Ernest Green, for breaking his windshield in a drunken fit.
Mr. Bullock, the defendant is or was a friend or acquaintance of yours, and according to your complaint, you gave him a ride home from someplace when he was drunk. He went crazy in your car and did damage to the windshield of your car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so tell me when this happened.
On January 19th, it was a Monday, it was, because of the Martin Luther King event that was going on in St. Pete, Florida.
Okay, tell me how it came to be that he was in your car.
It came to be because I gave Mr. Green a call that evening asking him what he was doing for that day, because I had just met Mr. Green probably about a week before that. And he was like, you know, give me a call sometime and, you know, we'll hang out or whatever. So I gave him a call and I asked him, you know, what he was doing for that day, and he was telling me about the event that was going on in St. Pete. So I asked him, you know, would he like to go? And he was like, yes, we can go down there.
Okay, and was he drinking at the time?
At the time that I picked him up, no, he wasn't.
Well, when did he start to drink?
He started to drink on our way to the event because...
in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, he was drunk at the time he did this damage to your car.
I wasn't actually drunk. I had drunk some drinks, but I was not drunk, Your Honor.
I'm going to get to you in a minute. Go ahead.
Well, he actually hadn't started drinking until we was on our way to the event. He asked me to stop at the liquor store on our way to the event, and he offered, me if I wanted anything I drink. I was like, no, I'm fine, So I was like, we'll stop and get you something. So as we stopped and got him something on our way to the trip, he had started drinking or whatever.
What was he drinking?
I can't recall the actual name of the beverages.
I was drinking cognac.
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 What time in the morning was this?
It was not in the morning.
What time was it?
It was around 7 o'clock.
In the evening?
In the evening.
And what kind of an event were you going to?
We went to a parade. Also,
just a second. You were going to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday?
Oh, yeah. I was not drunk. I mean, I'd had some drinks.
Pay attention to my question. You were going to celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, and you decided that the appropriate tribute to Martin Luther King was to drink cognac.
Well, actually,
just pay attention to my question. The appropriate tribute to this leader was to drink cognac on your way to the parade.
No, actually, that wasn't it. Actually, Mr. Bullock had a couple drinks earlier, too.
I'm talking about you.
Hold on, Your Honor, that's a false statement. I didn't have anything to drink.
Shh, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking to him. Now I'm not talking to you anymore. Let's get to the windshield, please.
Yes, ma'am. Earlier that day, I got a call from one of my other friends who was telling me that he was throwing like a little private party at an after-hour event. So after we left the Martin Luther King event, on our way back, I told Mr. Green about the event. He asked me, could he come? And at the time, I knew he had been drinking or whatever, and I was like, well, we'll take you home first, and then I'll come back and get you. And then he made a statement that he wasn't ready to go home because he knew if he went home, his girlfriend would not let him back out.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that was not true.
So when I took him there or whatever, I said, well,
you took him to the party.
Right.
It wasn't an event. It was a party, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, so let's not say event. We went to a party, and you took him to the party. Did he continue to drink at the party?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
We haven't gotten to the windshield yet. When are we going to get to the windshield? I'm losing
we're getting
patience.
to the windshield right now, ma'am.
Good.
All right. Well, we were at the party. That's when he started getting a little belligerent, and one of the actual bouncers saw that his attitude was rude towards some of the females in the club, that he was grabbing on them and harassing the women. And he said, "You're all going to have to take him home." And I said, "That's not a problem." I said, "I'll take him home." On our way going down the interstate, Mr. Green's attitude had really changed. I mean, he had started getting very rude, loud. He had started, saying some obscene things.
Where was he sitting?
He was sitting in the passenger seat.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's not my character.
Just a second.
It's not on my character.
Don't interrupt. All right, so he's rude, he's belligerent, he's using bad language. Get to the windshield.
So we were approximately about a block from his home, and he had just started really getting loud, and before I knew it, he had started swinging at the windshield like this, going like this. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And before I knew it, I looked up and my windshield was cracked. And we was about a block from his home.
And he cracked the windshield with his what?
With his fist.
Do you have a picture?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
Judge, if I broke a windshield or cracked the windshield, I'm pretty sure.
Am I looking in your direction, Mr. Green?
Okay, sure.
What time was this that you took him home?
It was about 12:30, almost going on 1, about a quarter to 1.
And you picked him up at what time?
I picked him up about 6 o'clock, 6:30.
What time did you get to the liquor store?
We made it to the liquor store about 6:45.
So he started to drink cognac at 6:45?
Yes, ma'am.
And it would be fair to say that he drank from 6:45 until about 12:30 or 1:45?
Yes, ma'am.
No, it wasn't, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, Mr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to me very carefully, sir.
Yes, I can.
You remember going home in the car with Mr. Bullock?
Of course I do.
Good. Tell me what happened.
No kind of way was I out of sync. Yes, I had some drinks, but that's no kind of way to say that someone's drunk.
Let me ask you this. You're at the club, and everybody is having a good time at the club?
We all had a good time at the club.
Great.
So, but no kind of way did I act out of character.
Okay.
So.
Did you ask Mr. Bullock to take you home at about 12:30 or 1:45?
Yes, I did ask him to take me home.
Tell me what you said to him when you asked him to take you home.
Well, I felt myself getting a little bit out of sync.
What does that mean, out of sync?
Out of sync means when you had one too many drinks, then you're just ready to go home.
Okay, so you felt as if you had too much to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I have that kind of judgment. So, I mean, that's how I know no kind of way could I have broken his windshield.
Shh, I didn't ask windshield yet. I'm not there, Mr. Green. So it's your testimony that you're at the club, and you were drinking at the club.
Of course I drank.
And that you felt as if you were a little out of sync.
Exactly.
So you said, would you please drive me home?
Exactly.
Because you were being responsible.
Exactly.
Is that right, Mr. Bullock?
No, ma'am, that statement is false.
Of course, it's false. Are you suggesting to me, Mr. Green, that the proprietor of this club didn't ask that you leave?
I never had anyone come up to me saying, I want you to leave.
You weren't behaving in any way that was irregular, a little bit high or a little bit inebriated at the club?
Well, a little bit intoxicated, of course. That's the reason why I'm ready to go home, of course. But I don't.
So you were
out of
acting
character.
a little bit drunk?
No, I'm not drunk, of course. When you're drunk, you're like falling down or something on the floor. I was not drunk.
Not everybody falls down on the floor, sir. Some people are drunk and they continue to stand up. See, what I find unusual, Mr. Green, is if you're at the club and you're drinking and you're having a good time and you're really not drunk and you're dancing and everybody else is staying at the club, it takes a person of very strong character to say, I've had a little too much to drink, would you please drive me home?
You don't believe that can happen?
It can happen.
Okay.
Unless there's a broken windshield. Go ahead.
I don't exactly know how the windshield was broken. I think that Mr. Bullock may have went out somewhere else after he dropped me off and something happened to his car and he's trying to pin this on me.
And he's just blaming it on you.
I believe that might have been what happened, but I break a windshield. What reason would I have if someone I just met to break their windshield?
Especially someone who has been very nice to you. Gave you a call, said, come on, let's go spend the day. We'll go down to the parade, then you can come to a party with me afterwards, right?
That is correct.
So you think that someone who acted like a person who wanted to be your friend would drop you off and then something would happen to his windshield and then he would say to himself, I'm going to blame Mr. Green for this.
What other reason would I have to come on this show and prove myself if I knew I was guilty?
It's possible, Mr. Green, that you don't remember breaking his windshield, that you were so drunk you don't remember.
Well, I just explained to you that I wasn't drunk.
Of course you were drunk. You had been drinking for over 5 hours.
No, I wasn't. I just said
Cognac, not a little beer.
I was not drinking over 5 hours now.
Sure you were.
You be in a hospital, you drink for over 5 hours. You be in like intox or something.
Well, that's what we're saying, Mr. Green, because after the first 5 or 6, you don't remember. You just want that buzz to continue. What kind of damage was done to your car, Mr. Bullock?
Besides the windshield, ma'am, that was it.
Okay, and how much did it cost you to have it fixed?
The list price was $325.
I asked you how much it cost you to have it fixed.
I only paid $144.45.
All right. Mr. Green, just add this $144.25 to the cost of the bottle of cognac. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Your Honor, this is case number 552 on the calendar in the matter of Lillard versus Deese Hogan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
All right. Miss Lillard, you rented a room from someone by the name of Chris Davidson.
That's correct.
When did you rent this room?
It was the 1st of October.
How did you find the room?
Chris is a good friend of mine. I've known him for quite a while.
Okay, this is Chris Davidson. I want you to stand up here, Mr. Davidson, because I'm going to have several questions for you. This young lady right here is your wife, but you're separated in the process of getting a divorce. What's your last name?
Deese.
Your complaint is that you rented a room, you were forced out of the house, and subsequently, both of these defendants who moved into the house destroyed or took your property.
It's gone. I don't know where it is.
It's gone, you know. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. How long had you been separated from your wife on October 1st of 2001?
I would say what time did you...
Don't ask
3 weeks?
her.
Maybe 3 weeks.
When did you move out of the house, Mrs. Dietz?
The first part of September, I'm not sure on the date.
All right. Where did you go?
It was in the same city, but quite a distance away.
Had you sought that residence before you moved out? Did you have a place to go?
Yes, I did. Well, no, I didn't. Not in the beginning.
Where did you go?
Stayed with several people, with my daughters.
Okay. How old are your daughters?
14 and 13.
How many years were you married?
17.
You know, can I state something?
Yes.
She's just stated the fact that she said she had nowhere to go. They had a house rented that they both went to. And
Who's
rented
both? You mean
her
these
and
two
Hogan.
people who were
Yes, they
holding
did.
hands?
I came home to an empty house.
These two people
Yes.
who were holding hands
Yes, Your Honor.
moved someplace together?
Yes, they went and sought a house and rented it together.
Oh, okay. They are holding hands, aren't they?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so they left the house
Yes, with my kids.
with the two children?
Yes.
Had you discussed their moving out before?
No, ma'am.
Now, when you say you came home and found an empty house, what does that mean?
I came home and he had moved my kids out and all the furniture that they wanted.
Wait a minute, we
What?
never even took no furniture out of the house when Miss D's left that house, okay? Period.
Okay, you took nothing out
talking
of the
about
house?
Nothing came out of
Beds,
that house.
all the kids' beds, dressers.
Okay, Mr. Hogan, look at me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And would you drop her hand? I mean, we're not at a movie theater. When you moved out that day, did you take any of the children's furniture?
Yes.
So you took furniture?
Yes, ma'am. We took the
You
children's
took the
kids.
children's furniture. Okay. And the fact that you were moving out that day had not been discussed with him. Is that right, Ms. Dees?
I had warned him previously, yes, that I would be leaving.
You didn't tell him that you were leaving that day. Is that correct?
No.
All right. Then you rented a room in the house
Yes, ma'am.
to the plaintiff.
Yes.
Then, according to what I've read in these papers, you received a phone call from your wife that
Actually,
she
the first-
wanted to come home.
First phone call I got was from him stating that, can I speak frankly here?
Please, that's
Come
what
get
we
the
hear.
crazy bitch, I don't want her no more. That's what I received the calls.
He's lying.
And when was that?
He's lying.
November, or around Thanksgiving.
Now, Miss Dees,
Yes.
there did come a time when you moved back into the residence.
Right.
I want you to tell me when that was and why.
It was right before Thanksgiving because Chris had kept calling and calling and calling. Had my children very upset, said he wanted to reconcile. There would be no more physical violence. So I took the kids. We tried to make another start. It was 17 years of a marriage. I tried to make it work again, but it didn't.
So you left Mr. Hogan.
Yes.
That was a mutual agreement between Beth and I.
I didn't ask you a question.
That's fine.
Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
I always get the last word, sir.
I agree with you.
Good. I did say the last word, didn't I?
That was the last word. That's right.
So you decided to go back to your husband.
Yes.
There wasn't any problem with Mr. Hogan, was there?
No.
None at all.
No.
Everything was just ducky. You moved out of your house with your children and everything else, and you just decided to go back.
I left my home because of physical violence.
But then you decided to go back.
Yes.
And at that time, you were living with Mr. Hogan.
Right.
So then you went back. And when you got back to the house, you found the plaintiff in the house. Is that right?
No.
She wasn't there?
He had already thrown her out.
Really?
Yes.
Well, tell me about that.
I had come back and I asked where the girl was that was staying with him. He
How
said,
did you know that there was a girl staying with him?
oh, he told me.
No, she made frequent visits.
Just a second. You mean you never saw her there?
I saw her one time out on the front patio.
Miss Dees, you knew that there was someone else living there.
Yes.
Were you happy that there was someone else living there?
Judge Judy, there were many people in and out of the house.
Just, I'm talking about her.
Oh, it didn't bother me.
At all.
No.
So that there was no reason for you to ask her to leave.
Oh, no.
Fine. So that by the time you say you got back with your children,
Right.
she was already gone.
Yes.
And that was right before Thanksgiving.
Right.
Now, there are some things in the house that belong to her,
Right.
and you were aware of that.
Yes.
What things were in the house that belonged to her?
She had some clothing, some personal female items, toiletries, what have you.
What about furniture? Was there any furniture that was in the house that had not been there when you were living there?
No. There was
What
no-
about a dining room set?
There was a dining room set there? Yes, there is.
That's what I asked you.
I don't know if it's hers or...
I didn't ask you that. I said to you, was there any furniture there that was not there when you were living there?
Yes, a dining room set.
Fine. Any other furniture?
No.
Did you ask your husband whose dining room set this was?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
He bought it from a storage unit sale.
Is that what you told her?
No, ma'am. It was very clear. Let me back up here a minute. The reason I feel that she came back to the house is when she found out I got the house out of foreclosure.
It hasn't been in foreclosure?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davidson.
Yes.
I did matrimonial work for a very long time. Trust me, I got the drill of what's going on here. Believe me, I do.
Okay.
I'm not going into issues of domestic violence. That's really not before me.
They're never.
The issue, whether there was, there wasn't, it's not before me. What happened is, your wife wanted the house back, and she managed to get it. She left, it didn't work out, and she managed to get it. You are living there now, are you not?
Yes, ma'am.
And you got a restraining order against your husband, did you not?
Yes, ma'am.
So he was thrown out of the house, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hogan is living there, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
All right, so we all got the drill straight. And how did I know? Did I make that up in my head, or am I just a good guesser? Huh? I'm just a real good guesser. That you wanted your home. This was a very good way to get it. Tried a reconciliation for about 2.5 minutes. It didn't work out. You got a restraining order against him. You put him out of the house. You moved the boyfriend in. And now everything is just delightful. Now you got your house.
No.
Say
That's not
nothing.
right. That's not right.
Say nothing.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christina Lillard says her roommate's estranged wife, Beth Deese, either disposed of or destroyed her personal belongings.
Miss Deese,
Yes.
where is all of her stuff?
The only thing that was in the house when I came was the dining room set and a van in the backyard that had bags of clothing, a suitcase, and some photo albums. Now, that van had not been paid for in 2 years. I called the loan company. They came and repossessed the van. I don't know if her items are still in there or if they've sold them or what.
Well, just a second. What would make you believe that it was her items in the van?
That's the only thing that was at the house that was not mine.
Then you knew those items were hers.
No.
Just a second.
Okay.
Then you knew those items were hers. Now, the plaintiff says that she's known your husband for a long time. Have you known her for longer than this 6-week period?
All I know of her is that they bailed each other out of jail. That's all I know.
Okay. Did you know where she had lived?
I knew that she was homeless is all I ever knew.
Did you know enough to contact your husband and ask where she was so that you could get this property to her?
If I could find my husband, I could never find my husband. He was
Well,
not
he was
reachable.
there when you got the restraining order against him, wasn't he?
Yes,
He was
he
there to
was.
serve, wasn't he?
Yes.
When he got thrown out of his
By
house.
pure luck.
Yes.
Listen, cutie pie, I'm not crazy about you because I don't think that you're
That's
showing me
okay.
sufficient respect. Just stand there
That's okay.
like an inanimate object. You want to start a new life? Why don't you start it in your own house?
I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Can I?
No, sir, you didn't. And I don't care how you go about dividing marital property. You don't do it by using the courts, which is what you did, madam. You used the courts in a way that the courts were not designed. Quiet.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Because, Mr. Davidson, I want to explain something to you. I have a sense that there was sufficient amount of domestic disturbance in the house, caused at least in part by you.
No, ma'am.
Maybe.
She was escorted away by the police every time she came to the house.
Did you ever have a drinking problem,
No,
Mr.
ma'am.
Davidson? Never drink?
No.
Really?
I'm not a drinker.
Oh,
I had a
okay.
problem with drugs once in my life.
Well, maybe so. Maybe my choice of substances may have been off.
too.
That's a possibility. I'm not saying that you're guilt-free. I just don't like it when people utilize the
there's no
court
domestic
system.
violence.
I'm speaking. Don't you see my mouth moving?
Yes.
I don't like when people use the court system, especially restraining orders, for things for which they were not designed in order to secure a financial position or a property position, which is exactly what I believe your wife did. In any event, that has nothing to do with Miss Lillard's property. Your wife had an obligation to ensure that that property was safe. She did not do that. Do you have estimated cost of value, please, as to what was taken from the van and the dining room set? And I'd like to take a
There's
look
a dining
at
room
it.
set and an oak buffet hutch, a lighted book that matches it. She knows about that too, along with a TV that was in my room and other things that were in my room, like all my pictures of my kids that she destroyed that I can't replace. She's very vindictive, and she has met me many, many times face to face, even walked in my room without knocking on the door.
Your Honor, if I may speak for a second, please.
Him, I don't know. I've
Sure.
never met.
Great. If you don't know me, why are you suing me?
Now you can't speak at all anymore.
I'm sorry.
You just lost your turn.
Sorry.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All these are excused. You better step out.
Beth is just a vindictive, jealous, insecure woman.
Don't agree with it?
I'd like to meet her in a parking lot somewhere.
The judge is the boss.
If you're gonna think about cheating, don't get married.
Ha ha, Beth.
18-year-old Taryn Parman and her mother, 33-year-old Celia Tucker, are suing 15-year-old Erica Brown and her mother, 39-year-old Kimberly Osley. Taryn says she was severely injured during a fistfight with Erica.
Order. All Yeah, this is case number 487 on the calendar, in the matter of Tucker Parman versus Ashley Brown. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Tucker,
Yes,
your relationship to Taran?
I'm her mother.
This is your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Neither of you were present on November 19th of 2001 when this fight took place. Is that right? You are merely here as nominal parties. You are suing because your daughter had certain medical bills and your daughter is a minor. So you're here with her. So I'm going to have the two moms sit down. Taryn, it is your claim that Erica assaulted you on the 19th of November, that she assaulted you and caused you some very serious injury. You had some 50 stitches as a result of this incident. And the defendant says that there was a fight, but she struck back in self-defense, correct? So, Taryn, why don't you tell me what started this argument?
Well, I never had an argument with her, actually. It was nothing to do with me and her. I had went to the park.
You went to the park?
Yeah.
Who did you go to the park with?
I went to the park with Steven, who was my boyfriend at that time.
And what did you go to the park for?
Well, a week prior to this happening, he had broken up with me to go out with Ashley, her witness.
And then he came to your house?
And he said that I want to be back with you. I don't want to go out with her anymore. Let's go to the park. I know they're up there. And we'll tell her that me and her aren't going to be together anymore, that me and you are going to be together.
Why was that necessary, Taryn? Why was it necessary for you to accompany him?
It wasn't, but...
It sure wasn't. That was really stupid. If he wants to have a conversation with his couple of weeks' girlfriend, let him take care of that by himself. All right, so you get to the park. And what happened when you get to the park with the genius over here?
Well, I go to get out of the car, and Ashley runs over the side of the car. I really didn't have a chance to have words with her because she came over, started saying cuss words, you want to fight me, flicked a cigarette on my face, and came at me, so I came back at her.
What do you mean you came back out at her?
She came at me like to hit me, so I came back at her.
Just a minute. How could you come back at her if you were in the car?
No, this is right after I stepped out of the car. She ran over the car.
She ran over to the car when you first arrived.
Well, I stepped out of the car, and then here she comes around the corner.
No, you didn't tell me that. Now you're getting back. So you got out of the car.
Yes.
And the boyfriend got out of the car.
Yes.
And Ashley comes running up to you, cursing you.
Yeah.
Because now you're with her boyfriend, right? You think. And then you've had a fight with her.
Yes.
Just the two girls.
Me and Ashley, yes.
And what is Prince Charming doing while you're fighting with Ashley?
Standing with his brother and other people that had came to the park. They were standing there watching, I guess.
Okay, so did you finish fighting with Ashley?
Yeah, her brother came up and kind of broke it up. She walked over to her friends, and I walked over with Steven beside his car.
And then what happened?
Then Steven's brother, who was there, were trying to get Erica to hit me. They're like, oh, fighter, fighter. She just beat up his friend.
Just a second. His group
Yes.
was instigating Erica
Yes.
to fight you. And tell me again what they were saying.
They were just telling her, they were like, oh, she got in a fight with your friend. How are you going to let her do that to your friend?
So they wanted your boyfriend, Prince Charming over here, according to you, wanted Erica to beat you up.
Yes.
And that's after he told you to come to the park with him to tell Ashley that he didn't want to see her anymore.
Yes.
You following this?
Oh, very closely, very closely.
All right, so now they're instigating Erica to fight you.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Okay, well, I was standing near Steven's car, and they were all in a group near us. I wanted to leave, and I had said to Steven, I looked over and I'm like, let's leave. When I went to turn back around, she hit me in the side of the face, got me on the ground, got on my back, took my head and slammed it into the concrete. That's a lot.
Shh, just a second. Wait 1 second, you're going to have a turn.
Okay.
And is that when you were injured?
Yes.
And where were you injured?
All around my eye, and I have pictures.
I'd like to see them. And these injuries occurred as a result of your face being slammed into the concrete?
Yes.
What are these marks on your back?
Well, when she got me like onto the ground, I guess she dug her nails into my back.
What finally stopped the fight?
After she did that, I guess she realized what she had done because, I mean, immediately blood started gushing out. They looked, saw what I'd done, and everyone ran and got into cars to leave.
What about Prince Charming?
He came over to me, and we got in his car and we left.
Now let me hear your version of the events.
Well, her cousin Stephanie was at school one day, and she came up to me before all this stuff had happened and said that she went up to the park and Ashley ran from her. This is how it all started, okay? This has to do with later on in the
I don't have a
story.
cousin named Stephanie, but...
Don't interrupt her.
Well, they said they were cousins. And she said that she ran from her, so I was like, that's not true. My friend wouldn't run from her, you know? I was like, that's lying. I was like, she's lying, you know? She got suspended from school for coming at me.
Who did?
Her cousin, Stephanie. Well, they said they were cousins.
Okay. So she got suspended from school?
Yeah.
And this was before this happened?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what happened on the 19th?
Stephen and Ashley were at the park. They got into a fight. He said, oh, well, I'm going to get Taryn because Ashley broke up with him.
So he was at the park first,
Yeah.
before he went to pick up
Yeah,
Taryn.
we were all at the park without her there. And
they had an argument. These two people had an argument.
And she broke up with him. So he was like, oh, well, I'm going to get Taryn, you know. She's going to whoop your butt when I get back. So she picks Taryn up. Taryn gets out of the car. Oh, so you're the little twit that Steven's going out with. And she's like, yeah, you know what? And Taryn was like, oh, well, you know, calling her names, calling her a B, you know, saying dirty cuss words to her. And so Taryn hit her. And then Ashley hit her, and they were rolling on the ground and everything. Mike came over, got
Who's
him.
Mike?
Her brother. He came over, got him up, and Taryn was standing there, and she was like acting like a tough, like a bully or whatever. And so Taryn comes over to me. She's like, oh, so who's the one that got my cousin suspended from school? She's like, Erica, like that. And I was like, yeah, that's me. She's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to fight for my cousin. And then she went like that, and she flinched at me, and she hit me, and I hit her.
No, just a second. She flinched at you.
Yeah.
Make sure you tell me, listen to me. Make sure you tell me everything that happened. Don't embellish it to make it sound better, because I'm a truth machine.
I know.
Do you understand?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Taryn Parman claims she was badly injured during a fight with 15-year-old Erica Brown. Erica says Taryn was looking for trouble, and she found it.
So far, I believe you. So now don't tell me anything that's not true.
Oh, I'm not.
So here we go. After she flinched at you, what happened?
I moved like that because I thought she was going to hit me.
Yes, very slowly. And if you don't remember what happened next, you can say, I don't remember what actually happened next. Don't make it up as you go along.
I'm not.
Good. So you moved back to sort of avoid her.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then she hit me in the jaw.
How did she hit you?
With her fist.
Yes.
And she punched me in the jaw. And so I was like, and I hit her, and then she fell to the ground on her back. I didn't scratch her. The gravel, it was gravel. It wasn't concrete. The gravel scratched up her back. That was it. Because she had a very hurt knee, and her knee was all tore up and everything.
Okay, so she fell on her back.
Right. She was getting up like she was going to come at me. She grabbed my hair. I grabbed her hair. I banged her head into the ground. Then after that, it was like she got up and she just got into the car. She didn't say nothing to nobody. She didn't say anything. She just got up, got into the car. Stephen got in. They left. That was it.
So what you're telling me is she hit you first.
Yes.
And you retaliated. Okay. Now I want you to tell me about this cousin, Stephanie.
I don't have a cousin named Stephanie.
I said in quotes, cousin, friend, whatever.
It's a girl that I used to know in middle school who moved away for 4 years and just moved back.
Yes.
I don't hang out with her.
Yes.
I know who she is. We talk at school occasionally when I went to school.
And I want you to tell me about this discussion that you had with the defendant, even though it was a short discussion, about Stephanie.
We never said anything to each other. At that park that day, we never said a word to each other.
So then you're telling me she just came on and assaulted you?
Denny, Stephen's brother, and all of them were saying, oh, beat her, you know, beat her up, beat her up, beat her up. I went to turn around and she hit me. I never touched her. She hit me, she got me on the ground.
Stephen was there,
She smacked
he
my head
knows.
into the ground.
Just a second. Stephen, you think I would have believed a thing that he tells me? This idiot? Stand up here, Stephen. I mean, I can't resist this one. You had a fight with Ashley at the park.
Yes, ma'am.
And after you had a fight with Ashley at the park, you went to her house.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said, we're going to go to the park now,
Yes, ma'am.
where the other people are sort of hanging around, because we're bored today, so maybe we can create a fight. Right?
No, ma'am. I wasn't
Well, what
thinking
did you go there for with her?
that. To talk to Ashley and let her know that I'm going to be back with Taryn.
You're lying.
No, ma'am, I'm not.
Yes, you are. What was the reason for getting her involved with Ashley?
I didn't know that Ashley was going to run up to the car and start a fight.
Well, you had had a fight with Ashley before you left the park.
It wasn't really a fight.
It was really a fight. It was an argument, which is why you went to her house. It was really an argument. She may not have hit you and you may not have hit her, but you had an argument. That's why you went to her house.
During the whole time that him and her had been going out, I had been talking to Ashley on the phone, so I never thought a conflict would. I had been talking to her. I told her that he was cheating on her. He was cheating on her the whole time he was with her. I talked to her on the phone every single day. She called me.
How old are you?
17.
You should be smarter at 17. I don't expect you to be fully cooked, but you shouldn't be an idiot. You went there looking for trouble, along with him. He especially knew that there was going to be trouble, and that he and his relatives egged a fight, egged her on to fight with you. Doesn't that say something about him? That he's a moron?
Yeah.
And you're a moron for being there. For that, you don't get rewarded. You got injured? Did you call the police?
Yes.
And was she arrested?
Yes, she was.
Was the charge dismissed?
Yes, it was.
Why?
They never told me.
Self-defense.
She didn't even file a police report. If I had hit her, why didn't she file a report?
I have it right here. Shh, just a second. Maybe she did. Self-defense. You went there looking for trouble, but for the fact that you went there with this idiot, there wouldn't have been a fight. And the two of you went there looking for trouble. And he knew that because he knew that there were two different factions there. And Mr. Idiot over here stood by while his two girlfriends fought. Isn't that what you told me? What is he doing sitting on your side of the table?
Because he was there.
Is he still your boyfriend?
No.
Shh. Thank God for small favors. Anyway, you went there looking for trouble. You found it. Pay your own medical bills. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you, Judge Judy. Taryn's a troublemaker, and she went looking for trouble, and she found it.
Jealousy, over girls being girls.
Look at me and look at her. Nobody likes her. She's not a liked person.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Busby versus Landfear. Step forward, please.
27-year-old telemarketer Larry Busby is suing 40-year-old tattoo artist Bill Lamphere for the cost of a tattoo and for the cost of its removal.
Mr. Busby, do not get too comfortable, sir. This case is not going to take that long.
Okay.
According to your complaint, you went to the defendant to have a tattoo put on your arm of your girlfriend.
Correct.
He put the tattoo on your arm. According to you, it was a terrible job. You went someplace else and had the other arm tattooed, same girlfriend. Is that right?
Yes.
You want the defendant to pay not only what you paid him to tattoo your arm because you didn't like the job, but you want him to pay the cost of having the tattoo surgically removed.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up, sir. Let me see the tattoo that the defendant put on your arm.
This is it right here.
Okay. Now let me see the tattoo that, and her name is Silly?
No, that's just what I call her. It's like a nickname. And both tattoo artists, they use the same.
Don't speak to me, just show me.
Okay.
And there's Silly Girl.
Right.
Okay, so we have one silly. Now let me see the other one. One silly and one silly girl.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Step back, sir. Tattooing, excuse me, Mr. Lamphere, I think it's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. All right, people.
I make a good living at it.
I understand that. especially if somebody tattoos a picture of a girlfriend or a girlfriend's name. I don't know. I mean, marriages don't last. 50% of people get divorced first time, 40% the second time. They put the names of the girlfriend. They all want to have it taken off. The second wife doesn't like the first wife's name staring at her in the middle of the night, you know. Well, that's stupidity. Not only didn't you put a name, you put a whole picture on there. And not everything is the same. It's an art form. It's not going to be exactly a picture. It's going to be a rendition of a picture. Even if you stay together, she's going to get older. And your skin is going to change. Do you know what happens to your skin sometime? As you get older, Mr. Busby, what happens is the skin gets a little flabby. So her face may not change, but your arm is going to get a little droopy. And believe me, sir, 20 years from now, those pictures are going to look very, very different on your arm.
Well, ma'am, if I can just explain that the fact I want a tattoo of the way she looks now, I understand, you know, she's going to age and things are going to look different, but I want something
and
the
your
way she
arm
looks
is going to
now.
age, sir.
Right, I understand that, ma'am. The main point is that I took this picture right here that I had blown up, this picture right here, to both tattoo artists, okay? I understand there's a certain amount of freedom that each artist has for their artistic freedom. And I can even point out in this tattoo right here that, you know, it's a different necklace. The hair's got a few different waves in it, you know, and I'm not trying to be like a complete perfectionist. Like the nose is a little too big there, but that's not a big deal. I'm not like that strict about being perfection. But I mean, like these two, it's no resemblance at all to her. I carried in a stack of photographs like this.
Mr. Busby, sometimes you go get your hair done. You go to a very, very famous hairdresser, and they color your hair, if one does that, and they cut your hair, and it comes out terrible. You hate it. You don't go back to them. You don't go back. This is a very subjective thing you have on your arm, sir.
But I made it clear to him that I wanted, I guess why I had so many different pictures, I wanted to have a strong resemblance to her. And this tattoo does not resemble her at all. It looks like Linda Blair from The Exorcist. I went in there, I told him, I said, this is my girlfriend.
It doesn't look like Linda Blair. It looks lovely. And maybe if this relationship doesn't work out, you'll find somebody who more closely resembles your right arm. Now, if you go to a tattoo artist who is not taking the photograph, it's a rendition, it's a picture of somebody. Why somebody would want to have that done, I have no clue to begin with. It's not a photograph. It's a picture. It's his sense of what it is. And maybe he's a lousy tattoo artist. But you don't sue for that, sir. And I certainly, after I had one experience that didn't turn out the way I liked it, wouldn't have gone to somebody else and had the other arm tattooed. Oh. To make a long story short, sir, you now have 2 tattoos. If you want to have one taken off, take it off. He's not paying for it. You understand? Mm-hmm. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, it's case number 115 on the calendar in the matter of Taylor versus Jones. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
It is clear that you 2 ladies are neighbors from the complaint and answer that I've read, and it is your claim, Miss Taylor, that the defendant assaulted you over the way your car was parked. She says that she was defending herself after you sprayed her with mace. So I'd like you to explain to me what kind of housing complex you live in.
It's an apartment housing complex, low income. Here's some pictures of my...
I want to see where the cars are parked, because this
is how the cars were exactly parked.
Let me see, please.
My car is back here. This is hers, and this is her boyfriend's.
Okay, let me see. Okay, yours is the blue car.
Yes.
And when was this picture taken?
That was like a month after. That was on the 12th, May 12th.
But it's not the date of the incident?
No, ma'am.
Now, according to your complaint, the defendant, who I assume you've had difficulty with before, came to your house one morning and asked you to move your car because your car was parked so close to her car she couldn't get her car out.
Yeah.
And what time did she come to the house?
Around 9 o'clock in the morning, banging at my door.
And what did she say when she came to your door?
When I came to the door, she was hollering about me moving my car so she can get out, or whatever the case was. And
no, not whatever the case was. Moving your car so that she could get her car out.
So she could get out, yes.
Okay.
She was hollering.
Now, when had you parked your car?
When? The night before that, when I got in.
Was her car there?
Yes.
How close did you park your car to her car?
About that close. I had to parallel park.
Well, this shows that there's plenty of space for her to get out.
Like you said, we've had problems.
Were you on her bumper? Were
No.
you on her bumper?
No.
Was she on your bumper?
Yes, she was.
Of course you were on her bumper, otherwise she wouldn't have come to your house. She was trying to get to work.
Okay.
Why would she come to your house if you weren't on her bumper? Right? Come on. You have to
She's
use
had-
common sense, Miss Taylor.
Okay.
Okay? And the fact that you didn't want to move your car, or that you've been having difficulty with her, nobody takes the time to go to your house in the morning and say, move your car, get angry, unless there's a reason that you can't move a car.
May I say something, ma'am?
Yeah.
I went to get my keys to move my car.
Just a minute. She comes to the door, move your car, and you said what to her?
I have to go and get. I didn't say anything. I was going upstairs. Okay, I was going upstairs, and I'm getting my keys.
Did you say anything to her?
I said okay, and went upstairs to get my keys.
Okay, go ahead.
My mace is on my keys. I went to get my keys, and I looked outside, and she was. Well, I heard when I was going upstairs, I heard her say she was going to move. She was going to hit my car. I looked outside, and I see she was doing a U-turn to get up on my bumper. I called the police, told them. She said she's going to move my car.
Just a second. She was doing a U-turn.
Yes, because her boyfriend pulled his car out by that time. I told the police, and it's in my police report. She said she's going to hit my car. Quote. When I was saying that, she went around, made a U-turn, and she hit my car. I told her she just hit my car. I'm going out there. I went out there to make sure it wasn't any damages. It wasn't no damages. She was hollering. We were arguing. It was cold outside. I told her, I'm not going to be out here arguing with you. It's cold. I have on my night clothes. I'm sleepy. I'm just going to pay you dust. She was still arguing, following me up to my door, which is around the corner, and hers is right here. She's following me up to my door. She's still arguing and hollering or whatever.
What was she saying to you?
Telling me I'm getting on her nerves because wait a minute. Well, you got the picture. She always parked by that pole. When I park by that pole, she just, I don't know, she don't like it because that's her, quote unquote, that's her spot. That's her pole. She has said it before. That is her pole. So when I park by that pole, I just get on her nerves when I do that. When I park on the street, because I usually park in the parking lot, she just get on my nerves. I park in the parking lot in the wintertime and park on the street in the summertime. I just get on her nerves. So I guess that just ticked her off.
Go ahead.
She came up on my porch. She was calling me B's and H's or whatever the case. So I called her too. You know, and I'm like, you know what? Forget it. You've been wanting me to sit out here and argue with her since 3 years that I've been living there. She wanted me to go out there and argue with her, and I never did. I paid her dust. Didn't even speak to her too many times. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna even go through with this. I'm going back to bed. It's cold. I gotta go to work. She come up to me and she swing on me. So I have my mace in my hand anyway. So I spray it with mace. She grabbed my coat.
Just a second. You said she swung on you. Exactly what did she do?
Well, in other words, she hit me with a clothes fist. She swung her clothes. When she came up, when I was going in the house.
Where on your body did she hit you with a clothes?
In my face, right here.
Okay. So what did you do?
I sprayed it with mace. While I was spraying it with mace, I don't know if her boyfriend was trying to grab her or whatever, but he was right there on the porch as well. And there was a stick around in the vicinity or whatever. She threw my coat on the ground, and I go to pick up my coat. She picked up the stick. She tried to hit me in my face with the stick. I blocked it with my hand and grabbed it with this hand. Then her boyfriend grabbed me and just like turned me around, and I went in the house.
Did she hit you with the stick?
Yes.
Where?
On my hand. She hit my hand.
Okay. Did you have any injuries?
Yes.
What were your injuries?
My finger was broke. I couldn't work for like 2 months.
Let me see the report.
That's the report and the medical bills. Here's my x-rays.
And now I need the police report.
You only need the police?
And now I need the police report.
That's my police report.
Good.
Police report. X-rays.
Okay, now I'll hear your version of the story.
Hi. Okay, Your Honor, what happened was that morning I had just got up to get ready to go to work. So I was sitting up watching my gospel like I usually do on Sunday mornings. So I looked out the window and I seen her car on my bumper. Now we've been feuding for 2 years. Okay, I have a 7-year-old son that I have to get up every morning at 6:30 and send him to school. She don't have any kids. She plays her TV all night long. She have a dog that barks all night long. Every time when I go to her door and try to talk to her and I say, could you please turn your TV down? She turns it up even louder.
So you haven't been getting along. You looked outside the window.
Okay.
I looked March
outside.
25th and you saw her car on your bumper.
I looked outside. I seen her car was on my bumper. So I said, By her being the way she is, when I go try to talk to her, I said, I'm not going there with Juanita today. So what happened was I sat there, and then I looked at my watch, and I seen it was getting close time for me to go to work. So I went around there, and I knocked at her door. I said, could you move your car off my bumper? She said, I ain't moving. And that's when she slammed the door in my face and went on upstairs. Okay, I left from her door. So then I went on in the house, thinking maybe she'd come to move the car. I sat there for a while. She never came to move it. So then what I did, I went back around to her house. I knocked at her door again. That's when she came outside. She sprayed me. Okay, me and her, we passed words. She sprayed me with mace first, before I even attempt to do anything to her.
It's not what you say in your complaint, in your answer.
She sprayed me.
No. Pay attention.
Okay.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Juanita Taylor says neighbor Deborah Jones assaulted her. Deborah says Juanita sprayed her with mace.
It's not what you say in your answer, Miss Jones. You just testified that you went to her house once, and then you went back to your house and waited to see if she would move the car. You went back to her house again. She opened the door and sprayed you with mace.
Right.
Is that what you just told me?
That's right.
Well, I'm going to read to you what you wrote in your answer. She refused to move her car and we started arguing. I walked away from her. Then she followed me around the building. The next thing I knew, she sprayed my eyes with mace. That's what you wrote in your answer. That's different from what you just told me.
But what happened, Your Honor, I left her house. When we got into a fight, that's when she followed me around the building. What I meant to say is, after she maced me, she followed me around the building.
No.
Okay.
So what you're telling me is she opened the door.
She opened the door.
She sprayed you with mace.
Yes, she did.
And you just walked away.
In my nightgown.
Wait a minute.
Quiet. And you just walked away.
Okay, what happened, Your Honor? When she sprayed me and her got to tussling, and I pulled her around the building, trying to defend myself. That's what happened.
Where'd you get the stick from?
Huh?
Where'd you get the stick
It was
from?
on the ground. She was macing me. I was defending myself to keep her from hurting me.
Why didn't you have your boyfriend move his car?
What happened was, he tried to move his car, Your Honor, but what happened, his battery had went down on his car.
But he got his battery fixed.
Huh?
Somehow it got fixed because he did move his car.
You know how it got fixed?
I'm
Okay.
asking you a question. Somehow it got fixed because he moved his car.
What he did was, once she moved her car, he went and bought some cables. And
When did she move her car?
What'd you say?
When did she move her car?
She moved her car after the policemen got there.
That's true. I was telling them she was on my bumper, and I was giving them a small version of the story. They told me to go on and move my car up. I went back outside with my nightgown on when I saw the police coming. The only thing she said was true, was that I did move my car up and the stick was on the ground.
Where did you buy the mace?
Kmart. We need a license. We can't have pepper spray up into a certain degree. I've looked into all of this.
You bought it at Kmart?
Yes.
But when I'm
Look
saying,
at it.
Your Honor, she
It's not
maced me
nothing.
first. If
Look
she
at it.
would have moved
Here are
her
my keys
car
right here.
like I asked her to, none of this would have even started.
There's no question in my mind. Listen to me, Miss Jones. There isn't a question in my mind that Miss Taylor pulled her car up on your bumper. The two of you have been feuding for a long time. You went to her house in the morning. You were angry. There also isn't a question in my mind, Miss Taylor, that you answered her when she said, move your car, and she didn't say it in a very nice way, would you please move your car? But you also said to her, I'm not moving anything. The only reason you went outside was because she threatened to hit your car. You watched her. You saw that she did, in fact, hit your car, even though it was no damage, so you went outside. You should have moved your car.
May I say something before you go back?
Sure.
We have had problems constantly.
What are the problems, Miss Taylor?
My TV being up too loud, my music being on when I'm not even home. Again, I work third shift. She would say I play my music late.
Is it possible, Miss Taylor, that you're playing your television too loud? I just want you to think carefully. Is it possible?
Ma'am, I work third shift. I don't
didn't ask.
No, it's not.
Has she asked you to turn it down?
She's asked me to turn everything down.
Okay. Is it possible that she hears these things through the walls of the apartment?
Your Honor, we've had conversations through the wall. She's complained about my water. She's complained about my bath water running too loud.
Me.
I come home when I'm not working the full shift. I come home 3 o'clock in the morning running bath water.
Me.
I hear her over there cussing and fussing. She's too loud over there. I'm coming home running a bath water.
You know
she has sent police over to my house when I have not even been there. He has been there for just silly reasons. He would tell me the police just left. Well, what are you doing? I just got in and they're asking for the lease owner.
You think she's got nothing better to do?
I don't think so, because she's heard conversations. She has heard a conversation going on between me and my best friend, and now we cuss to each other, and I be on the phone, my windows will be open or whatever, and we talk about each other. She has sat there, a neighbor came to me and told me, well, number one, how do I know that you were... Okay, well, they have come to me and told me things that I've said on the phone.
Ms. Taylor? Okay. Let's start on the 24th of March. The 24th of March, you did a very foolish thing. Knowing that you had, and that you were in a rather acrimonious relationship with your neighbor, you exacerbated that situation by pulling your car right up to the bumper of her car. There's no question in my mind that you did that.
Okay.
Because despite the fact that she may be angry, she's on her way to work. She's not going to take the time to go out, come up to you, start an argument, if she could get her car out without doing that. So she came up to your house. I'm speaking now.
Okay.
So you did a foolish thing because the two of you really don't like each other. And if you don't really like each other, then what you're supposed to do is stay as far away as possible. And that may mean even parking your car someplace else, but certainly not parking your car right up on her bumper, which makes everybody very angry. Doesn't that make you angry? I'm speaking.
Okay.
Doesn't it make you angry when somebody parks up on your bumper?
Yeah.
It makes me really angry if somebody parks up on my bumper and I can't get out. Number two, I also believe that you had absolutely no intention of moving your car at the time that she came screaming at your door at 9 o'clock in the morning to move your car because you don't like her. And you figured let her sweat for a while. And the only reason you went outside was because you heard her say she was going to hit your car. Now, there is never a way that I am going to be able to tell who sprayed who with mace first and who hit who with a stick first. Certainly.
Your Honor, she hit me with a closed fist first.
She
then
sprayed me
this
first.
is how it went.
David is
She
the
hit me with a
witness.
closed. If she hit me with a
there.
If
Were
I
you there,
sprayed her,
David?
then how did she hit?
Step up, please.
It was just me, her, and David.
How you doing,
I don't
Your
know
Honor?
who he
Just
is.
a second.
He wasn't
I don't
there,
want to
Your
hear
Honor.
anything.
No, he was not there.
Quiet.
Okay.
You were there.
Yes, ma'am, I was there.
Okay. How long have you been living in this apartment?
Oh, I don't live there.
You were just there that night.
Yes. The battery in my car had went down, so I left my car there. I came back over the next morning and asked Deborah, could she give me a jump? She didn't have no cables. So what it was, I pushed my car back. She never did come out to move her car, period. I pushed my car back, took her car, went up to the parts store and got some jumper cables. Came back, her car was still in the same place. I pulled, by me pushing my car back.
I just want to hear what happened. What, if anything, that you saw involving these two? Now, look at me. I want you to tell me what you saw. Make sure, sir, that you tell me only what you saw.
Okay. When she knocked on the door, she come down, and when she come down, she had some keys in her hand. We standing out on the porch. They're arguing. Next thing I know, I see her do this. And that's when they started fighting.
Your Honor,
I broke the fight up.
if I may, if it was a big deal when she went out and looked at the car, she could have sent the police over to my house like she did all those other nights.
No, I didn't
calling.
call.
You could have called the police.
Don't speak to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor,
Sit
she
down.
could have called the police
I think that
and
you
told
both
her.
behaved. I think that you both behaved badly. I think what you should have done, Miss Jones, is call the police.
Yeah.
That's what you should have done. I believe that you were both injured. The fact that you had a graver injury than she did which was you had a broken finger as a result of being hit with a stick. She did not hit you with that stick until after you maced her, which are the injuries that you are complaining about. Now, you could have taken care of the situation before it even started by
No, I
not
could
doing.
not.
You're
There was no
interrupting.
way.
You're
I'm
interrupting
sorry.
me. Oh no, you could have taken care of the situation before it even started by not parking in a situation where you knew you were going to exacerbate an already hostile relationship with the defendant. You chose the night before, when you parked, to park, and you said to me her car was parked there. It wasn't as if her car came in after your car was parked. Her car was parked there. You chose to park your car in such a way that she could not get out. Now, the fact that she came to your door the next morning, she may have asked you to move your car. I believe that you had no intention of moving your car. You're angry with her, you're annoyed at her, and you didn't like her attitude.
Your Honor, her
I'm
car is-
speaking! Now, there was a mutual assault. You just got hurt worse. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 479 on the calendar in the matter of Alan Torres versus Escamilla. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
You're Miss Allen?
I'm Miss Torres.
Miss Torres, Mr. Allen.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good. Well, thank you. Good afternoon. It won't help you. The defendants are the apartment manager and his wife. You were tenants in their building.
Still are.
Still are. And according to what I've read, your two apartments share a common wall. Is that right?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. And there lies the trouble. According to you, the defendant's wife, one evening, took the key that was given to her husband for emergency entry into your apartment. You did have the key, sir, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And came into your apartment in the middle of the night.
3 o'clock a.m.
Which was an unlawful entry. And she says that she thought that you were battering each other, which is why she came in. You say because of that and other things, you are being forced to move.
Correct, Your Honor.
And you want to be compensated for
Correct,
the
Your Honor.
unlawful entry and also for the costs of your moving. The defendant says that they were merely afraid for your safety. Your safety.
We were sleeping, Your Honor.
Just a second.
Okay.
Your safety. By the way, switch places. Okay? Now that's better because I have, on my papers, I have Alan Torres. Good. Do you understand that, Bert?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Tell me about how long you've been living in this apartment complex.
Approximately 2.5 years, almost 3.
How long has the defendant been the manager of the complex?
Approximately a year and maybe 2 years.
So they moved in after you were already there.
Right.
So far, is that correct?
Correct. No.
Now, from the time you moved in, have you been disturbed by the noise coming from their apartment?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Right. And these common walls are very thin in between the two apartments. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm just laying it all out. On what evening did Miss Escamilla come into your apartment?
January 8th, ma'am.
January 9th.
Your Honor. It was my birthday, January 8th.
It was the January 8th, but in the morning of
Right.
January 9th?
7th.
January 9th. Now, what time did you enter their apartment?
3 o'clock in the morning.
Where was your husband?
He was asleep.
So why don't you tell me why you entered their apartment?
We were awakened.
No, you weren't awakened, the two of you.
No,
Only
we-
you were
we were
awakened.
both
You said he was
awakened.
asleep.
I woke him up because I heard noises coming from their apartment. There was loud noises. They have a tendency of fighting, beating up on each other. And because of that, and the loud noise, I woke up my husband. My husband called them on that evening. They did not pick up the phone. I went over there. I knocked on the door. They did not open the door. So I went back home. I told my husband, I'm going to go inside because of the fact of not hearing her anymore, but hearing the loud music. I got scared.
You were hearing loud music?
The music was very loud. I have testimony. I have a written testimony here also from a next door neighbor.
You had very loud music, and you had tried to call them, and they didn't answer.
Have my phone number. Sorry. Sorry.
Loud music that was annoying you, and you went into their apartment.
Not
You
only
took the key.
Not only because of the loud music, but because of the fighting.
No. Listen to me. I don't want you to think that I'm stupid. Because you seem to be an intelligent woman. And I'm a little older than you are. Common life's experience suggests that if you think someone has just gotten battered and beaten to the point of unconsciousness because you no longer hurt her, you don't take the key from your husband and go into the apartment alone. What you do is you call 911. And you say, I believe that there was an assault next door, something happened next door, could you please come? Or your husband may go in. You go in because you were being disturbed by the loud music. And that's the only reason you went in.
I went in because of the fact of what I heard that evening and because of what I had heard prior to that.
And I'm telling you that that does not have the ring of truth to it, madam. The ring of truth would be if you were afraid, unless your husband is a wuss. Maybe he would go in to look to see if she was safe, if you were really concerned about her safety. What sounds more logical is, I can't believe we got to listen to that music anymore. I'm furious, and they don't pick up the phone, and I banged on the wall, and they don't turn it off, and I'm going to go in there myself, and I'm going to give them a what for. That's something you might do. See, your husband, if he was afraid, maybe he would get a bat or some weapon and go in to make sure she was okay. So I don't want you to think that I believe for 1 second that you went in there because you were afraid for her safety. Not for a second. And you had no right to go in there. No right. That's not worth $2,500. Let's understand each other.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Casey Allen and his fiancée, Jenny Torres, are suing their apartment manager, Ernest Escamilla, and his wife, Eloida, for an unlawful entry into their apartment. Eloida says she entered the apartment because she thought Jenny was in danger.
Now, let's get back to you, because I don't think you're blameless in this whole thing. How many times have they complained to you about the loud music coming from your apartment?
Your Honor, after that, they've called the police.
Now, I'm talking about before.
Before? Well, I have a letter right here from that Ernest wrote here saying how punctual and responsible and tenants that we are, if you'd like to read it. So
I would like to read it. I asked you a question. You want to answer my question? Maybe the answer is never. So they've never complained about the loud music coming from your apartment?
No, Your Honor. I don't have any notices saying that we were
I didn't ask you for notice. What I asked you about was, has anybody ever said to you, we can hear your music in our apartment?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, good. Did you write this letter indicating that they have been tenants since December of 1999 and they have always been responsible and punctual tenants?
Let me kind of...
The answer is either yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
And who did you write this letter to?
To the court of San Bernardino.
Why did you write this letter to the court?
At the time, they were being accused of I think it was stealing some jet skis. They were out in the desert driving these out in the river somewhere, and they had been accused or picked up and taken to jail for these jet skis. And so he came to me in confidence, said, I need a letter showing that I'm a good guy. And up at the date on that letter is probably maybe a year ago, I think.
August of 2001.
Yeah. And so, we know these people, And so I said, yeah, I'll give you a letter. I've never seen any jet skis. Other than
no, you also said that they were responsible and punctual tenants.
Yeah, they are. They are. As far as they've never not paid the rent on a given month, but they are late all the time.
May I show you this, please? These are receipts of all the rents.
Your husband's, listen, you're not the manager. Your husband's the manager. Is that right? Are you employed or is he?
I'm sorry?
Are you employed as the manager or is he?
No, he is.
Then put the paper down. Your husband just said that they paid their rent. They paid their rent on time. Is that right, sir? Don't go back because your wife is because she's a little taller than you are. I wouldn't go back. Do you understand?
No.
I'm not going to beat you up when you get home, sir.
Okay, basically.
Just tell the truth, and we'll be just fine. They were responsible tenants as far as paying their rent. Maybe.
Up at that time, yes, at that time. Okay. And then I started to get a lot of late rents after that, and so I've had.
How late?
Well, I got
day,
the receipt.
2, 5?
No,
How many
no,
days?
I would get half in the middle of the month, and then a week later I'd get the other remainder. A couple of times they would give us checks and money orders. The checks would bounce, but of course money orders don't bounce. And it just went on and on like this, and I finally started giving
Can't be on and on like this. Listen to me, sir. You wrote this letter at the end of August, so the end of August they were okay. We have September, October, November, and December.
Yeah, that's,
Because
that's primarily when it started, yeah.
Listen to me. That's 4 months. September, October, November, and December. And the incident happened in January. So we're talking about in 4 months. So in 4 months, you told me they started to pay their rent late. Sometimes they paid with a bounced check. Sometimes they paid a half a month. And I mean, all those things happened in a 4-month period.
No,
so
not
let
at
me
all.
have September, October, November, and December's rent. I want to see it, the rent receipts. Let me see. Just September, October, November,
Well,
December.
They're kind of all in there. You have to.
Well, I'm not interested in all. I asked you for
Okay, well-
4 months. September, October, November, December.
I have January and February right here.
What word didn't you understand? September, October, November, December.
Show her these two.
I don't recall being late in those months.
Well, I asked this for the receipts. Nobody has those receipts. Is there
The
any
only
reason?
time that I got a write-up for being late was in January, and I have here that they didn't even put the check in. The check was still pending on the 16th. I have a receipt day that we paid the rent on the 7th.
I want to see that because that becomes important. Did you file eviction proceedings against them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now
Here's
let me
the
see.
15th and the 16th.
Let me see.
eviction
Can I
notice.
see the eviction proceedings that you filed against them?
Got a 3-day notice on the 15th,
This is it.
and
That's
the check wasn't pending till the 16th.
Just a minute. This is just half the rent, sir.
There's a money order here. Here's the receipt for that month. The check is on the Wells Fargo printout, and the money order is also paperclip to it.
Why did you pay?
We pay half and half. She pays half, and I pay half.
I see.
It's the eviction procedure.
Well, this is crossed out.
Yeah, he tried to put that we paid on the 16th, and I made him cross it out and initial that we paid on the 7th,
Okay.
because I knew you'd like to see that.
And I see this money order went in on the 7th. Now let me see the eviction proceedings. How many units are in your building?
22, ma'am.
22.
Mm-hmm.
Put your paper down.
Okay.
Put your paper down. I want you to listen to me very, very carefully, sir. You know all the tenants in the 22 units?
Yes, ma'am.
All the tenants.
Yeah.
Any of your tenants pay late?
We got a couple others.
I'm asking you, you cut a couple. A couple is 2. You have more than 2?
No, ma'am.
How many other people, other than these 2 people, do you claim pay late? Just think very, very carefully, sir. Pay after the 1st of the month or the
May I
2nd
answer
of the
that because I'm the one
No,
that
you
collects
may
the
not. Answer anything.
I'm the one that collects
You
the
may
rent.
not answer anything. Now, I said to you, how many of your tenants pay late? Day, 2, a week late of the 22 apartments.
Well, after the 5th, it's considered, after the 3rd, actually, it's considered late. We have, it varies from month to month. There may be 2 or 3 from month to month that pay late once in a while.
How many are you evicting?
None.
You're evicting them, why?
For basically not getting half the rent half the month and half the rent the other half. This is the only apartment that does that.
No, I think that you're evicting them because they have a common wall that's annoying your wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think you're evicting them, because she would like somebody nice and quiet, maybe somebody who, you know, doesn't speak, because the walls are thin, and it may be that they're annoying. It may be that they're annoying. That you're annoying me just being there. That may be. It may be that they have created a nuisance because they play their radio and they're not considerate neighbors and they play it too close to where your wall is and they keep you up at night. But then be honest. Don't try to screw them around with this late rent business. That's what it is. I mean, I could tell for it is from reading your papers.
It's harassment, Your Honor.
And let me explain something to you, sir. You don't get your rent in on the 1st of the month. Now, technically, they have every right, if they want to say to you, your rent isn't on time, you have to move. They probably wouldn't have said it if otherwise You weren't annoying in the apartment. You weren't playing the radio loud, and, you know, to them loud. It may not be loud to you, but if the walls are very thin, then they hear what's going on in your apartment. But they technically have a right, if they want to evict you because you do not pay your rent on time.
Well,
on time is the 1st of the month, sir. Now, I believe that the defendant entered your apartment. I know she entered your apartment without just cause, and she entered your apartment because you were annoying her. Not that she was in fear for your life, Miss Torres. How much do you think that's worth?
Well, what did she think when she came in there and she saw us laying down naked, sleeping?
I don't know what she thought.
Can I answer that question?
I ran her out of my house, is what I did.
I'd like
you know very well that you did not run me out of your house. You also know very well.
Don't speak to him. You said you want to answer the question.
He
Speak
did
to
not.
me.
He was not naked, first of all.
What difference does it make?
Because of the fact that he's saying he's lying. He was not naked.
You started the lie a long time ago, madam, when you said to me that you entered the apartment because you feared for her life.
Ma'am, I did not lie when I said that.
Yes, you did.
Are two couples not allowed to sleep naked?
Hey, Mr. Allen, I don't think you're cute, sir.
I'm sorry. I was in my birthday suit.
Just remember where you are and what it is that you hope to accomplish today.
Yes, Your Honor. I realize that.
Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. I told you when we started this, when you gave me the good afternoon, Your Honor, I said it's very, very nice. It's not going to help you. You did not enter the apartment because you feared for her safety. Otherwise, you would have sent your husband. Or you would have called the police. You entered his apartment without permission. You are not employed as the building manager. You are nothing more than another tenant in the apartment. Another tenant in the apartment could not jimmy open the lock of their apartment and go in to see if everything was okay or to check on the sound of the radio. That's really what you did. You entered their apartment and you trespassed. You had no reason to do that. And all I'm asking you is, what do you think that's worth?
I think it's worth if they... we're living there right now. We're not evicted. The owner of the apartment came to me on his own grounds and told me, do you want to stay in the apartment?
Don't tell me what the owner said to you. That's hearsay. I asked you a question. What was it worth? What do you believe it's worth? Her entering your apartment in the middle of the night without your permission.
All I want is first and last month's rent so we can move out of there so we don't have to be harassed anymore.
You're not... Well, listen. I don't think she has to pay you for that. You just told me. You just started to tell me that you're welcome to stay there in the apartment.
We don't want to stay there anymore.
So move. But I think that she has to be punished in some way for not only entering your apartment and some... I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Not only entering your apartment without your permission, for taking her husband's key and doing that, but also for lying to me about it. But I don't think that that's worth more than $500, and that's what you get. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 463 on the calendar in the matter of Welch versus Wooten. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Well, my reading of the complaint and the answer in this case indicates to me that this was a monumental example of bad judgment on a lot of people's parts. Ms. Welch, you want the defendant and his son, co-defendant, to pay for damage to a car that was being driven by your son. It seems to me this was a retaliatory act, according to you.
Yes.
Or something that was done by the defendant's either one son or two. The defendant was there in a parking lot. They all got together to rumble. What's going on? Were you there?
No, ma'am.
Who was there?
My son and his friend.
Son and friend, step up here. Miss Welch, why don't you sit down, please? Who's the son?
Me.
Your name is Chad?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are?
Josh Laughlin.
You're Josh. So we have Chad on one side, Josh on the other. You don't mind if I call you Josh, do you?
No, ma'am.
All right. What is your name, sir?
Rusty.
Rusty. And this is your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Your name?
Justin.
Justin, you were there too?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. But so were you, Mr. Wooten.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me, Chad, how this started?
Well, they called me and told me to...
Who called you?
It was Larry and Justin. And Larry...
Larry?
Yes, ma'am.
Not here. Larry and Justin.
Yes, ma'am.
Justin, raise your hand. Step up. Move over a little bit. That's it. So Justin called you.
Yes, ma'am.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did Justin say when he called you?
He asked if we would come to the video store so we could talk and get the problem straight.
Now, what kind of problem had you had with Justin?
They said I broke into their house.
When did they accuse you of breaking into their house?
About a month before this happened.
Did you try to break into their house?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever try to break into anybody's house?
No, ma'am.
No.
Neither one of those statements are true, ma'am.
You mean that he didn't try to break into your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't interrupt.
Yes, ma'am.
It's really not important. All right, so he called you because he said that you tried to break into his house a month before.
Yes, ma'am.
And he wanted to get the matter straight at the parking lot of a video store.
Yes, ma'am.
And so what did you say?
I went to the store because it was the middle of the day in the middle of town, and I didn't expect nothing bad to happen there.
Well, what time of the day was it?
About 12:30 or 1.
Did you go alone?
No, I had.
No, you went with Josh.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else?
Zach.
So you went with Zach, too, who also isn't here,
Yes, ma'am.
along with Larry, who isn't here. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, were Josh and Zach at your house when you got the call?
No, we was on the way to Zach's house.
Who was on the way to Zach's house?
Me, Josh, and Zach. And they called.
When you got the call, were you there alone?
Oh, ma'am.
You were there with Josh.
And Zach was with me.
So all three of you were at your house when you got the call?
No, we was going down the
No,
road.
I want you to pay attention. You received the telephone call at your house. Who was at your house with you at the time you received the telephone call?
I wasn't at my house.
Where were you?
I got the phone call when I was going down the road. They called the cell phone.
Oh. Who has a cell phone?
Zach.
So he didn't call your number, he called Zach's number.
Yes, ma'am.
How'd you have Zach's number?
No, I've had repeated calls from him before, and it was on my caller ID, so I knew where I could reach Chad at.
Was he a friend of yours?
No,
But you knew that the boys were going to be together,
always.
the three of them,
I don't know. I didn't know Josh was going to be. I know Chad's always with him.
with Zach,
Somebody.
with somebody. All right. So Chad, Josh, and Zach. You reached him on the cell phone, said you're going to meet him at the video store. So you pile in your car, you're in your car already, and you take off to the video store.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was your intention, sir, when you called him?
To get at the bottom of him breaking into the house.
What do you think we pay police for?
They wasn't going to do nothing about it.
So what were you going to do about it?
See if he really did it.
And how did you intend to do that?
Get him to tell the truth.
And how did you intend to get him to tell the truth?
I asked him.
You were just going to ask him. You were going to say, did you try to break into my house? And you thought he was going to answer you. Is that what you thought?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you kidding me or what?
Telling the truth.
Telling the truth. All right. And how many of you went to the video store?
Me and Larry.
But you didn't go just with Larry.
No, my father and Rusty, they followed us because they heard the phone call.
Who heard the phone call?
When we called them, my dad picked up the phone and he heard what Zach and them said they were going to do to me, and that's why they followed me out there.
Well, what did they say they were going to do to you?
And I was grounded at the time. He said when I left my house that I was going to get shot, and that's why Dad followed me out there.
So let me understand this. You called him to arrange for a meeting to ask him a question. Why did you try to break into my house? In response to that, he told you that he was going to kill you.
Zach did.
Zach, I don't care who did. Zach did, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you decided to go anyway.
Yes.
And not only did you decide to go anyway, but your father and Rusty decided to go in a second car.
Yes, ma'am.
Why, Mr. Wooten?
I wanted to make sure that the boy was not carrying a gun, that he was going to shoot my son.
And how did you intend to find out if he wasn't carrying a gun?
I asked him, which I did.
You were going to ask him,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have a gun and do you intend to shoot my son?
Well, no, I asked him if he was toting a gun.
You said, well, are you toting a gun?
Yes, ma'am.
And so after he confessed to the attempted burglary, he was going to confess to carrying a gun. Is that what you thought?
Well, he pulled up his shirt and showed us he wasn't
He showed
carrying
us
a
he
gun.
wasn't toting a gun.
In his shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
Did any of you ever see Bruce Willis? Carries him in his shoe. And
He had on shorts. It was during the summer.
So now we've got two cars going from your team. The adult mature father and one son, and you with your friend Larry, and you with your two buddies.
Yes, ma'am.
And why don't you tell me what happened when you got to the parking lot at the video store?
When I got there, it was just Justin and Larry. They walked out of the video store.
Justin and Larry.
Walked out of the video store. Yes, ma'am. And then Randy and Rusty jumped out of the car and followed behind them, and they started in on Zach. asking him about a gun, telling him to raise his shirt up and all this. And he raised his shirt up, and then they asked him how old he was, because they knew he was too young, and he said how old he was, and they called him a liar, and then he told him he was 21, and Randy slapped him in the face. And after when he did that, they was all coming.
Just a second. Randy, did you slap him in the face?
No, ma'am, I hit him.
You hit him?
Yes, ma'am.
Say they agreed to a brawl with 17-year-old Justin Wooten and his brother Rusty. The boy's father, Randy Wooten, claims he accompanied his sons to make sure the fight was fair.
Okay. Why did you hit him, sir?
He had an attitude, you know, when he pulled his shirt up, you know, he said, no, I'm not toting a piece. And I know the boy was older than what he was saying he was.
So you hit him?
I hit him.
In the face?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
After he did that, they started coming towards me. All of them was coming towards me. So I got a bat out of my car and ran to the store and told them they needed to call the police because something bad was going to happen, and they refused to call the police. And when I was in the store, Rusty kicked the mirror off my car and kicked the side of my car. Then he picked Josh up and was choking. I don't know what he was doing to him. He had him in the air and wouldn't let him down.
Who had you in the air?
Rusty Wooten.
Rusty. Glad you confessed. This is a wonderful lineup. Why did you have him in the air?
Well, the way everybody was positioned, my dad was in front of Josh and he was walking towards you, and I thought he was going to do something from behind. So I grabbed him from behind, and Justin told me that Josh didn't have nothing to do with the break-in. He was just with the wrong people. So I let him go, and I said, I'm sorry. I apologized, shook his hand, and that was that. I did punch his mirror, but it was because of my only excuse is anger. It was either punch the mirror or punch a minor and possibly go to jail for assault to a minor. So I chose the mirror.
So,
and I'm ready to pay that. I have an estimate on what a factory mirror would cost for his car.
All right. So far, is everything that I've heard pretty much accurate the way it happened?
No, ma'am.
Well, he said yes, and he says yes. You say no.
No.
What was different?
The phone call, Chad said to meet them at the video store.
Yeah.
Justin and Larry was inside. Rusty and I was parked at the front door. They walked up, started in the video store. Chad saw me sitting in the car. He turned and ran to his car. And that is when he got the ball bat and was swinging at me and running across the parking lot at the same time, and he was swinging.
Was that before or after you slapped his friend?
That was before.
That was before you slapped his friend?
Yes, ma'am.
So he's running around like a lunatic with a baseball
Yes,
bat,
ma'am.
and you go over to his friend, ask if he's got a gun. You didn't like his attitude, and you slapped, and you, excuse me, hit him.
Yes, ma'am.
After the mirror was broken, what happened?
After the mirror was broke, I went to leave. And when I went to leave, Randy was stood in front of the car, and finally they left and got in his car, and Justin and Larry stayed, went back in the video store. When I was leaving, I hit Justin's car with a bat.
You hit Justin's car with the bat. Were you in your car when you did that?
Oh, ma'am, I got out.
Because you were angry?
Yes, ma'am. They already did it to mine and hit them, which I know I shouldn't have did it, but I did.
And then what happened?
We left, and Justin's, I don't guess he did, but Larry got in the car with somebody else and followed us. And he hit the side of my car with a tire tool and then threw it at the back, and it stabbed in the back of the car.
With a
tire tool, with a sharp end on the one side, and then it's got the lug wrench on the other side.
It's not one of my usual pieces of equipment that I carry in my purse. But I assume it made a hole in your car.
Yes, ma'am, in the back and in the right quarter panel.
Was that your mother's car?
Yes, ma'am.
By the way, where was your mother when all this was going on?
At home.
Did you tell your mom that you were going over to the video store?
No, ma'am, when I got the call, I wasn't at home. They had stayed the night with me the night before, and then we left that
Who stayed the night with you?
Josh and Zach.
Oh, okay. Now, what I want to know is, at what point, Justin, did you ask Chad whether he had attempted to burglarize your house?
I told him on the phone.
No. You were meeting at the video store because you wanted to ask him why he attempted to break into your home. And you told me a few moments ago that that was the sole purpose of your going there. And that you also told me that you expected him to answer you. So I've just heard a whole bunch of things going on, but I haven't heard at what point you asked him, Chad, why did you attempt to burglarize my house?
Your Honor, there wasn't no doubt in my mind because my father called him.
So then what'd you go there for?
Truthfully?
Truthfully. Well, of course, don't you see how foolish I'm making you look?
No.
Well, I'm making you look foolish, sir, because I want you to tell me the truth.
To beat the crap out of Chad.
Right. Now we get there. Not just to ask him whether he attempted to burglarize your house. So you went there, not only you, but your father and your brother and your friend Larry all went there to beat him up.
No. Me and Larry went because we knew he had people with him. My dad
So
was just
you
there
went, and your dad went for what purpose?
to make sure there wasn't no guns there.
So he said it's okay if you go and beat him up as long as there are no guns.
Fair fight, yeah.
No, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay if you go beat him up as long as there are no guns. Is that the idea? Yeah, let's just go have a fair fight. How much do you weigh?
Me, 300 pounds.
How much do you weigh?
135.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
I mean, you know, if he's going to
No, is that fair?
I can't, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, if you weigh 300 pounds, and he weighs 135 pounds, and his friend looks like he weighs 135 pounds after a good shower, does that sound fair to you?
He shouldn't
like
put
a fair
himself in
fight?
these situations.
What?
He shouldn't put himself in the situations with me.
That's what police are for. Quite frankly, Mr. Wooten.
Yes, ma'am.
These two people are idiots. Those two people are idiots. You give them the benefit of the doubt because they're young idiots.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not a young idiot.
No, ma'am.
My question is, are you an old idiot? How would you permit your sons to become involved in a situation where you know there is going to be violence? Not only do you know, you anticipate there's going to be violence, but your son's intention is to be violent. How do you permit your sons to do that? And follow them. Follow them to make sure that it's just a fair fight. How do you do that?
How do I do it?
Yeah.
This between Justin and Chad has been going on for years.
So?
It's always never Chad on Justin. You know, he'll never, you know, I don't have no problem with them fighting. Fair. But it's always Chad and 2 or 3. You're going to jump on one boy. And
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter, contractor.
I've always thought that it was the responsibility of parents to try to discourage the resolution of disputes by acts of violence. And I don't care what kind of violence it is. You say it's a fair fight. People get killed in a fair fight.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say he didn't have a gun. Let's say he had a knife or a screwdriver or a lug wrench. And instead of throwing the lug wrench and hitting the car, one of your team threw it and it went through the windshield and it hit somebody in the head and they got killed. Well, we didn't mean for that to happen. All we meant was to go there and have a fair fight. Now, that doesn't excuse you two idiots.
No, ma'am.
How many times have you been arrested, sir?
Twice.
For what? Let's make sure we get it right.
Theft property.
What kind of property?
An amp.
An amp.
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the second time?
Fair to appear.
On that case?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. You on probation?
No, ma'am.
Were you tried?
Yes, ma'am. They just gave me I had to do my suspended sentence, and then they ended the sentence.
When was that?
About a month and a half or 2 ago.
And when did this take place?
About a month ago.
So you were still involved with your suspended sentence?
No, I did my suspended sentence.
So
in
this
the
was a
county.
couple of weeks later?
Yes, ma'am.
The dates on these are wrong. We got the actual police report from where he busted his taillight out at the video store.
Well, I want to know, is it about the same time as he was getting off a suspended sentence, he was involved with something else?
I don't know when his suspended sentence was,
I don't
but
know
I can
either.
tell you
I just want to know how dumb he is. All right. And what about you, sir? Let's get to you. Arrested? You. Ever been arrested?
No.
You? You?
No, ma'am.
Didn't think so. Figured he was. So you want them to pay for the damage to your mother's car?
Yes, ma'am.
Forget it! Forget it. He had no right to go there. Looking for trouble. It found him. They're not going to get paid for their car, for the baseball bat, for the dings on the car. Good. You have to keep better control of him. Now you can stand up. You got to keep better control of him. Only saving grace is that you weren't there in the car with him. You weren't there with him. This father, who doesn't see anything wrong with what his boys did, I think it was the ultimate act of betrayal as a parent to encourage his 2 children to engage in a brawl that could have ended up with somebody seriously hurt. And if you don't get it, Mr. Wooten, I'm really sorry for you. We live in a civilized society. We're supposed to anyway. Lots of bad things going on around us. You're not supposed to set a bad example for your children. You're supposed to set a perfect example for your children. And a perfect example isn't, I'll come with you to make sure there are no guns and you can just beat the crap out of them, which is exactly what he says he intended to do. And if you didn't want to be involved with it, you shouldn't have gone.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 585 on the calendar in the matter of Jones versus Callahan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
All right, this case is a little complicated, so let me go through the facts as I understand them. This is your brother?
Yes, ma'am.
For some reason which is unimportant at this moment, you went to jail.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a car.
Yes.
The car was towed when
Yes,
you were
ma'am.
incarcerated. According to the complaint, your sister, who had formerly dated the defendant, asked the defendant if he would pay the towing charges on the car and the impound fees on the car, and that when your brother got out of jail, he would repay him and he would give him the car back.
Yes.
Your brother got out of jail, and the defendant, stop playing with your papers, pay attention, because
Sorry.
maybe I'm getting something wrong. Your brother got out of jail, and the defendant, according to you, refuses to return the car.
Yes, ma'am. He refused to return any phone calls.
The defendant says that he did return the car, and he is counterclaiming. He says that you, Mr. Jones, stole a gun that belonged to him, and that you, Miss Jones, have a large screen television set that belongs to him in your home. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you want to be reimbursed for the towing fees that you paid for his car, right?
Correct.
Okay. Do you understand that?
No, but I'm waiting to see it unfold.
Okay. Well, I tried to simplify it. It was really very... Okay. When did you go to jail, sir?
November 1st of 2001.
How long were you there?
I was there for 4 months.
Okay. And you called the defendant. Were you still dating at the time?
Yes, we were.
What did you say to him?
I asked him if he would get the car out of impound for me because I could not afford it, and that we would pay it back as soon as my brother was released from jail.
And what did he say?
He said fine.
How much were the impound fees?
$538.
Now you tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her about getting the car out of impound.
She explained to me that while her brother was in jail, that I'd be able to get the car out of impound in replace of the stolen gun.
No. Look at me. Look right here. She called you and said what?
She called me and told me there's a note here saying her brother will give you the car because of the stolen gun. So I said, well, okay, I'll accept
I
that
don't
offer.
agree with that.
Just a second. Who has this note? Do you have the note?
Actually, she has the note.
You have the note?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see it, please.
This is the contract we had on the car. He refused to sign it because he said it.
Just a second. Okay. Well, nobody signed this, and this doesn't say anything about a gun. What about this gun?
There was a gun that he claims was stolen out of my house. I have 2 minor children, this being one of them. My daughter is 2 years old. I had asked him numerous times not to bring a gun into my house.
Yes.
We went to visit my friend in the hospital, and when we came back, he told me that his gun was stolen out of my house, and I didn't even know it was still in there. I had told him over and over again not to leave a gun in my house with my minor children. So I don't really know what happened to the gun.
You said you saw a note where Mr. Jones here confessed to having stolen your gun?
Yeah, actually, it was in one of his letters that he sent while he was in jail.
Well, where is the letter?
Actually, she has it.
You have a letter?
I don't have any with me. I have just...
Did you get a letter from your brother with regard to a stolen gun?
My brother sent me a letter saying if it was possible for me to please get out his car out of impound fees. He didn't care what I had to do it, to just get it out. I told him then I would ask Jimmy to get the car out of impound for me, and that when Matt got released from jail that he would then pay for the car because I didn't want anything to do with it.
I have that information. I'm asking you about a note with regard to his confessing that he stole a gun.
No, ma'am.
Did you take his gun?
No, I didn't. I have talked to numerous detectives as well in this case, and they acquitted me of the charges, and they don't feel that I've taken it, so...
Taken it.
Taken it. Sorry.
Detectives don't acquit you. They just have to have evidence in order to
They dropped
arrest
the case.
They dropped the
In
case.
any event, there's no proof that he took the gun.
Exactly.
Sounds logical to me, sir, very logical to me, that your girlfriend would call and ask you to do this for her, and that you would return the car. But your defense is that you returned the car. Tell me about that.
Actually, on January 8th, she gave me a call, threatened me, saying that if I don't return the car within a couple days, that her and her brother would come looking after me. That weekend on the 12th.
Don't speak unless I'm looking at you.
That weekend on the 12th, I told one of my friends to help escort me to drop off this VW Jetta to Don Marie's residence. So eventually, he drove his Toyota, and I drove the Jetta to her house. We dropped off the keys in the mailbox, which is in front of her doorway. And for the reason I did not make contact to her, she has filed a stalking charge on me prior to these occasions.
Okay. Did you report the car stolen?
No, they told us we had to take it to small claims court and get it back.
He doesn't have it.
But he did have it, and he had it at the time, and he had never dropped it off to my house.
How do you
ever.
know that?
Because if I'm not home, somebody else is there.
I don't know whether somebody else is there or not. He doesn't have the car. And he certainly can't use the car because he doesn't have any proof of ownership. He can't have it insured. So I suggest you call and report the car stolen because he doesn't have it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. Now, you can have the car back, but you still owe him some money because he got the car out of impound. You promised to pay him back. Why didn't you pay him back?
We've made a number of chances to try and contact him. In the stalking order that he was suggesting, I went with her to the court. We ended up dropping the stalking order, saying we just want the car back, then we can all go our own separate ways. He refused to contact us. He refused to call us. He says that he's not doing the deal no more. We have the money, and we've offered to pay him several times.
Well, he certainly can't sell the car without a certificate of title, which leads me to believe that unless he's just merely being vindictive and dumped it in a lake or something, which I have no proof of, that it has absolutely no value to him whatsoever.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dawn Jones says ex-boyfriend James Callahan refuses to return her brother's car. Dawn says when her brother Matthew was arrested, James got the car out of impound and never gave it back.
Okay. Now tell me about this big screen TV.
All right, I have the receipt here. On 10/8/01, I went down to Circuit City with her son to purchase a TV. For the reason is her TV that she had at the time was was not reasonable. So we eventually purchased a 27-inch flat screen Panasonic TV. I do have other things in her house, and I could not receive that. I couldn't bring that.
Just a minute. We're not there yet. The TV that she had was not a good one, so you went with her son and bought a TV and brought it to her house.
Correct.
What makes you think this is your TV?
I actually purchased it.
I don't care if you purchased it. If you purchased it and made a gift to her, then it's not yours. I don't care if you purchased it. All right, let me hear your version of the TV.
Thank you, okay. He was liking to flash money around everywhere he went. He was flashing money in my face. He also was giving me...
TV.
Several gifts, okay? He gave me the TV. He put it in my name. I have the receipt.
You to tell me.
He left the house one day. He came back with this huge TV, and I said, "What are you doing? I cannot pay you for this TV." He said, "Don't worry, Marie. It's a gift. You can have it. I'm not going to take it from you or your kids." Here's my son, who was with him when he went to the shopping.
Let me see the receipt.
Those are receipts for everything he's countersuing me for.
No, I'm not interested in everything. I'm just interested in the TV.
All right.
Sold to Dawn Jones.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, when you give a gift, you don't take it back, sir. The relationship didn't work out. It doesn't mean you get the TV back. What you do get back is the $538 that you laid out for the towing fees for the VW. That's what you get back. Period. You go to the police and take care of your car.
Will do.
Good. Have I resolved that? Did you understand it?
I understood it perfectly.
Perfect. Thank you. Goodbye. Have a happy life.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't know what his problem is, but he is severely mental.
There are certain times where if you're really nice, you let your guard down, people will, intend to take advantage of that.
He broke into my house and woke me up while I was sleeping, doing nasty things.
She's in distress right now, and she's trying to, make me look bad.
He's psycho. He's psycho.
Yeah, this is case number 603 on the calendar in the matter of Williams Kirby versus Grutel Gilkerson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right. Who's speaking?
I am.
What is your last name, sir?
Williams.
Mr. Williams, according to your complaint, you loaned this defendant, actually both of them, but it was for his use, $600 because he was facing a period of 15 days in jail.
Yes, we did.
And he never paid you back the money.
That's right.
According to you, this defendant, Gilkerson?
Yes.
Was also party to that loan.
Yes.
Because it was she who you knew.
That's right.
Okay. How do you know each other?
Me and her mother were best friends since we were 4 years old.
So she's the child of a good friend of yours?
Correct.
Who got the call about this money?
Actually, me and Sandra had discussed it, loaning money, and then...
Well, tell me about the discussion. Where did it take place? When did it take place?
Go ahead.
Debbie approached me that Sandra approached her wanting to borrow $600.
No. I want to hear from her when Sandra approached you.
Okay, Sandra come to me in January and asked me if she could borrow some money to help to get Brian out of some trouble he was in.
Did she tell you what kind of trouble?
Yes.
What did she say?
She said that he just had tickets and fines and that needed the money so he didn't go to jail, and I didn't want him to go to jail.
You didn't want him, or she didn't want him to go?
She didn't want him to, but I didn't want him for her.
So it was just fines?
Correct.
How much money did she say he needed?
He needed $600.
What did you tell her?
I told her that I had to talk to Tom and that we would get back with her. And then we discussed it, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't Sandra that had to pay all the money back. I wanted Brian to be a part of it because I didn't want Sandra liable for him.
Did you ever speak to him?
I did not speak to Brian, no. Tom did.
Okay. Now it's your game.
Debbie come and told me that Sandra wanted to borrow this money, but she had reservations about Brian, and she wanted me to talk to Brian because she didn't want Sandra at that point to get stuck with this whole thing. So I went and I talked to Brian one-on-one.
You went to his house?
Yes, we were at his house where he lives with Sandra, her house. We were on his porch, and I told him, you guys want to borrow this money, and you had Sandra come ask for it. It's for you, it's your debt also. I don't care if you guys break up, I don't care if you move away, I don't care what happens, it's your debt too.
And what did he say?
He said he was cool with that, and he just needed to pay these fines.
Is that what he said? He's cool with that?
No, I said I understood.
Yes.
Oh, good.
I'm cool with that.
You cool with that? And you said you understood that.
Yeah, I agreed.
You know what that's like? Did you ever, do a lineup where you have the victim looking at the group of people, and the detective says, do you recognize anybody as the person who robbed you? And the robber raises his hand, it was me. I'm glad we've resolved that. You understood this was your debt, all right? Who did you give the $600 to?
Both of them at the same time.
A check or cash?
Cash.
Cash.
Okay. Now you don't have to say anything else for a while. Go.
It wasn't $600. I did have some traffic fines that were going to be due. I asked Sandra because she was my girlfriend. I didn't have a job at the time. I had just lost it. It wasn't, I didn't know Sandra was...
Now, do you see how quiet he was? Now you're not allowed to speak.
All right.
Okay, good.
I didn't know Sandra was going to ask these guys, but I had asked her if there was anything she could do to help me. It was only $240 that they gave us because my fines were only $300. That's all they equaled up to. But all she was able to give us was $240. We made one payment. It was not said to be paid at the beginning of the month. It was just every month they wanted $30. And yes, that was understood. She was on welfare at the time, and that's how she was going to help me pay them back. Until I found a job, she was going to give them $30 a month until it was paid off, or I found a job and was able to contribute to the loan.
So you mean I, as a taxpayer who pays tax... Listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes.
Let me make this easier for you so that I can keep him interested. Bird, who is a taxpayer, who works and pays his taxes, part of which go to support people who cannot or will not support themselves through welfare. Bird was going to pay for your fines.
That's not the way it...
Well, that's what it is. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Do you understand that, Officer Bird?
It works that way.
She's getting welfare because you have children, I assume.
I have a son.
You have a child. Who's the father of that child? Him?
No.
Somebody else. So because you are a single parent and have a child, you get welfare. You were going to take $30 from your small welfare benefits and pay back his debt.
It was mine also, ma'am.
I don't care whose debt it was. How can you agree to pay back a debt for somebody when all you get is mere existence money for you and your child? How could you afford $30 a month? They must pay you an awful lot for welfare.
No, they don't.
But it was able to be afforded until I was able to find a job, and then she wouldn't have been paying it no more because it was my fines to be paid.
Just a second. Now, I don't want you to say anything else. Miss Gilkerson, when did Mr. Grutel first tell you that he needed money to pay these fines?
Sometime in the beginning of January.
Where were you when he told you?
At my house.
And who lives at your house?
Me and my son.
Who else?
We were staying up the street at a friend's house.
At a friend's house?
Yes.
Which friend?
My friend Heather.
And where was he staying?
He was staying at his mother's.
Sure he was.
That's not,
Sure.
all of that's a lie.
Of course. Sure he was staying at his
I was staying at my mother's house. Like I said, it wasn't going to be...
Are you telling me that you never stayed with Miss Gilkerson?
Yeah, I'm not going to say...
He stayed the night.
Yes, ma'am. I have spent the night, but I didn't live there.
Of course you have. And you just pick the nights that you stay there, and at the other times you stay with your mom, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what kind of fines were these? What were they for,
Just
sir?
traffic. When I first got my license, it was, I didn't have my insurance and everything, so that made it a bunch more problems for me.
Well, what does that mean? You didn't have your insurance.
I wasn't responsible.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Thomas Williams and his girlfriend Debbie Kirby say former friends Brian Grutel and girlfriend Sandra Gilkerson owe for a loan to keep Brian out of jail.
Were all the fines for not having insurance?
No.
What were they for?
Driving without a license as well.
Okay, so not only didn't you have insurance, but you didn't have a license.
Yes, ma'am.
How many tickets did you have in total?
Probably 3.
So this is my question to you. Judge gave you so much time to get the money together?
And to produce a valid driver's license.
When was that?
I'll say January 15th. I'm not for sure at this time.
Okay. Now, when you paid the fines, you got a receipt.
Yes, I didn't bring it. I'm sorry.
Now, I mean, did you think that I was stupid?
No, ma'am.
You pay the fines, and then you get a receipt
Right.
that you bring back to the court, and then the matter is dismissed, right?
Yes.
Where's the receipt?
I was only able to pay one fine because they didn't give me enough money to pay all of it.
That's fine. Where's the
I didn't
receipt for
bring
the
it.
one
I couldn't
fine?
find it. It was a
Now,
last
are you
minute.
still living in the same location
Yes.
that you were living before?
Yes.
And is the court in the same city where you live?
Yes.
Yes. So what you do is you take a ride down or walk
Oh, I can get
down.
a copy.
No, you do that before you come to court.
I'm sorry.
Me too. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I love Sandra like she was my daughter, and this is just killing me.
I couldn't say the right words for her to understand my side of the story.
They're all living on welfare, got it taken, they're all doing drugs.
I got papers proving they're both liars.
They bought a quarter-pound of weed and tried to flip it over and messed it up just like they do everything else.
The reason he's saying that is because he stole a quarter pound of weed from my sister's ex-boyfriend and got caught and told everybody charge it to the game.
They smoked it instead of sold it.
He lives off her disability and welfare, and they're a bunch of frauds.
He was fired from his job because he was buying alcohol for minors at McDonald's where he was working at.
He lied.
It's crazy. You know, we're just glad we got our money.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hamilton versus Cleveland. Step forward, please.
22-year-old child care provider Hillary Hamilton is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old construction worker Cameron Kleeman, for an unpaid truck loan and for unpaid rent. Cameron says he owes Hillary nothing.
Ms. Hamilton, you claim a loan to Mr. Kleeman.
Yes, ma'am.
In the amount of $1,900.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What was your relationship to him?
I was his girlfriend.
What did you loan him the money for?
I loaned him the money for a truck.
Tell me about how it came to be that he needed money for a truck and he asked you for a loan.
He didn't have a job, and he asked me.
What did he say?
He asked me if he could have some money to buy a truck so that he can get a job.
Were you living together at the time?
We were getting ready to live together. I'm pregnant with his child.
Where did you get the money from?
My income tax.
Your income tax refund?
Mm-hmm.
So when did you give him the money?
I wrote a check out to the Ford company where we got the truck, and
And how much was the check for?
$1,500.
Okay. And you acknowledge that she gave you $1,500. Is that right, sir, towards
Yes,
the down
ma'am.
payment of the truck?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Okay. Now, you tell me your version, sir, of how and why you got this $1,500.
The conversation between me and her of
Yes.
it being a loan never arose. She never said it was a loan. She, you know,
Well, what'd
she
you think
just-
it was?
Well, I mean, we were together at the time and everything else, you know. I mean, she put the money down for our apartment to move in together. She put the $1,500 down for the loan on the truck. She co-signed for me because I didn't have good enough credit to be able to facilitate a loan. And so, I mean, it never became a loan until she moved out of the apartment we were living in, and she came to me and asked me what I was going to do about owing her the money. And my reply to her was, I don't owe you any money. I was working. I was paying all my bills and stuff that I had incurred myself.
But you couldn't work anymore if you didn't have a truck that was working.
Well, that's true. My truck
Just
was
a
in the
second,
process.
so you wouldn't have been able to work.
True.
Mr. Kleeman, I want you to put aside the issue of a contract with her for a moment. There came a time when you no longer were living together. You moved into an apartment, which is the other part of your claim, that you laid out his half of the rent, $400.
Yes, ma'am.
What caused you to separate?
He was dating another girl while I was living there with him.
That's not true.
Just a second. And how long had you actually lived together in this apartment?
11 days.
Who was supposed to make payments on the truck?
She provided the $1,500 down. I was supposed to make, I had a promissory note signed to pay $500 within 2 weeks of the time of the loan was signed and everything. And I'd talked to Victor, the guy at Marshall Mize Ford there in Chattanooga, and told him that I wasn't going to be able to make it because I had to go with my father out of town.
So what happened?
I gave them $250 in a money order, and then I paid them, it was $278 with everything, taxes and all.
Okay, so you had the truck for about 2 weeks before you and the plaintiff separated.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened to the truck?
About a week and a half after she had moved out, that one of my friends had wrecked the truck.
What was one of your friends doing driving the truck?
And taking one of my other friends to work because I was in no shape to drive.
Why?
I had pneumonia. I couldn't even get out of the bed.
Did you have insurance on this truck?
I had liability, and that was it.
So somebody wrecked the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, who's responsible for all the payments on the truck?
I was, me and Miss Hamilton.
Did you pay for it?
Yes, ma'am. I made every payment up until the week it got repossessed.
What do you mean it got repossessed? I thought it was wrecked.
It was wrecked, yes, ma'am.
And was it still drivable?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you're saying to me, sir, is by the time they repossessed the truck, it had already been damaged by a buddy of yours, and the total purchase price of the truck was what?
I believe it was $9,000.
You owe to the credit company a whole bunch of money.
No, ma'am. Supposedly, Miss Hamilton here, from what she's told my mother, she's found somebody to purchase the vehicle. They're going to get it fixed and everything else, and they've taken over the loan on the vehicle.
Is that right?
The truck's still at Marshall Mize Ford. It's still sitting there. But I do have the paperwork on the truck where nothing's been paid on it except for what I've paid.
How much have you paid?
$1,500.
Only the $1,500?
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't make any monthly payments on
Yes, ma'am. I made the $500 promise.
I'm not talking about the $500. That was the down payment. When did your friend have an accident in the truck?
Okay, she moved out, I believe that was Friday. It happened the following Sunday.
Okay. And weren't you supposed to make a payment in March?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Did you make a payment in March?
I didn't make the first weekly payment. It was set up on a weekly plan.
Why didn't you make the payment?
Because I had totally forgotten about it, because I had made the $250 payment, and then I turned around and made another $278 payment, and I'd totally forgotten about it. Well, the guy at Marshall Mize called.
So let's figure out what you did. Let me tell you all the problems that you had. First of all, you're supposed to come up with the other money after she put down the money, and you had to go out of town with your father.
Right.
Then you let somebody else drive the truck who had an accident.
Right.
Then you didn't make the next payment that you were supposed to make on the truck in March because you totally forgot about it.
Yes.
You're a pretty irresponsible person.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is I forgot about the weekly payment. It was set up on a weekly payment plan.
You forgot?
Yeah, I forgot. And the man from Marshall Mize called me.
Don't tell me the man from Marshall Mize for them. Not interested. You owe $1,500. Now, let's hear about this rent business, Miss Hamilton.
I have a lease saying what I paid on the apartment, which was $614 plus $10 deposit for the keys. And he has never taken me off the lease when he lived there. I moved out before the lease even started.
Yeah, so you signed the lease. What do you want?
But I wasn't living there.
I don't care. You signed the lease. You're supposed to use your brain and think. How long did you live in that apartment, Mr. Kleeman?
I lived in there until the very end of February.
How much rent did you pay?
I paid $400.
Who did you pay to?
Bender Realty, because I had to have the rent for the March, be able to move out, and they were going to keep the $300 security deposit.
Well, was that her $300 security deposit?
That's out of the money that she put down off the...
Did you pay any rent for March?
No, I didn't live there.
Well, I know, neither did he. He says he paid rent for March.
That's not what they've told me.
I don't believe him either. Did you pay any rent for February, sir?
No, ma'am, I didn't. February was included in the $614.50.
Okay, did you pay any part of that?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Why not?
Because she had said that she would be more than willing to put up the money so that we can move out, so that she can move out. Because she was wanting to move out from her parents' house. I was not in a situation to really argue or anything.
I thought you were working, sir. You kept telling me I was working. What kind of work were you doing? You didn't have money for a car. You didn't have money for rent. You didn't have money for security.
I was working
What kind of work were you doing?
Working construction.
Well, what were you doing with the money?
I only got paid every 2 weeks, and there was
What
bills
were you
and
doing
stuff.
with the money that you were earning from construction?
Paying other bills and stuff that I had.
What are the
inquired.
bills?
I had a truck payment and insurance on my '95 Dodge Dakota. I have personal debts and stuff to my parents.
Grow up. I mean, is she a person who's independently wealthy?
No, ma'am.
She got a tax return. Let me explain something to you. You're supposed to be the hunter. You're supposed to provide the shelter, gather the food.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not supposed to be the schnurrer. Do you know what a schnurrer is?
No, ma'am, I don't.
I know you don't. A schnurrer is the Yiddish word for taker. Somebody your size isn't supposed to be a taker. They're supposed to be responsible. Responsible for their own transportation, responsible for their own housing. She wasn't even asking you to take care of her. She was just asking you to take care of yourself. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,807. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Yeah, this is case number 533 on the calendar in the matter of Ellis versus Ellis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes.
this is your mom?
Yes.
How old are you, sir?
24.
I see here that you have children. How many children do you have?
4.
They all live with you?
Yes.
You hesitated for a minute. What does that mean?
Nothing. Just
Do your children live with you?
all 4
Or
of
do
them.
you
yeah.
live with your children?
Mm-hmm. Live with my children. All 4. And my wife.
Because that has something to do with this. Has your mother been helpful to you in the past?
Sort of, kinda.
What does that mean, sort of, kind of?
Well, you know, when I asked her to help me do things, when I needed it, she was there.
Did your mother work?
Not at the present time, no.
Did she work when you were growing up?
Yes, she did.
This case has to do with the fact, Mrs. Ellis, that you say that your son came to you recently and
Yes.
said that he was having some difficulty with a car and that he needed some money. Is that right?
Yes.
What kind of difficulty was he having with his car?
It was repossessed again.
And how much money did he need?
$4,123.76.
And I gather from your complaint that you weren't anxious to give him that money immediately. Is that right?
That's true.
Why is that?
Because, like he said, I've helped him in the past. I'm always there for him. And the money that I would help him with, I would give it to him from my savings. It was my money. But this $4,000 that we're speaking of, that came from a credit card. That's borrowing from Paul to loan to Peter, and you have to pay that money back.
Did he come to you asking you for this money?
Yes, he did.
And what did you initially tell him?
I told him no. I told him I think I've done enough.
What did he say?
He begged me and sobbed and asked me to give him another chance, and I'll prove it to you, Mom. Just, you know, if you loaned it to me this last time, I promise you, I'm going to pay you this money back. He cried and everything, but I told him no. And when I told him no, I was so happy, I was so proud of myself that I said no. I was like, yes, I actually turned this guy down, so he left, and he went to my mom's house, and he cried to her. And I guess she's never seen him cry. So she called me and said, can you just give him one more chance? I think he's going to own up to this. I think he's going to really pay you this money back.
What kind of car was it that was repossessed?
97 Dodge Stratus.
So you ultimately gave in. And you gave him $4,123. What was the arrangement as far as repaying you?
I loaned him the $4,123.76. He says gave. I just want to correct you because you said gave. I'm sorry, but you said gave, and that's what he keeps saying gave. It wasn't gave.
Go ahead.
Okay. I loaned him the money August the 17th, and he was supposed to give me $500 every 2 weeks to be paid in full by December the 10th, and any accrued interest that was left over, he would give me that with the next pay, which was December the 24th. And I don't want you to think that I'm kind of like, well, why would you want all this money for this guy? You know, you got these kids. He has a good job, but he was getting a second job that my husband was getting for him. And he promised me that was the money he's going to pay me from. And after I loaned him the money, no second job.
But he did make some payments to you.
Yeah.
Not exactly on time, but $200 or $500 in August and October, and then he gave you a payment in December of $250.
Yes.
So he repaid you a total of $1,250.
Yes.
And then what happened, Mrs. Ellis?
The date he gave me, $250, was the date that the loan was supposed to be paid off, which was December the 10th. He gave my sister the $250 and told her to tell me he would give me the rest of the money with his income tax. He got his income tax and no money.
Did you call him?
Yeah, but I was harassing him when I called him.
Well, what were you saying to him?
I need a payment. I need to pay this credit card. And he would tell me, I got kids over here I got to feed, and he would give me the rundown on the things that's going on in his life, but never mind what's going on in my life.
And then there came a point when he told you that you couldn't see your grandchildren?
Yeah. Every time he gets mad at me about something, he holds those kids hostage. Every time he get mad at me about something, I cannot see those grandkids.
How many grandchildren do you have?
3 from him. I have 5 total, but I have 3 by him.
I thought
3
he said he had 4 children.
He has a stepchild.
And did you see your grandchildren regularly before all this happened? Have you seen them?
Whenever he wasn't mad at me.
Have you seen them recently?
No, I haven't seen. The last time I saw the kids were in January.
All right, Mr. Ellis, now I'll hear from you, sir.
All righty. Oh, well, I needed the money. Because, you know, I had this, like back in 1999, she bought me a car. It was a piece of crap, broke down on me. And then, you know, I saved up some money. I said, look, I need help to get another car. So I asked her, I said, could you help me out get another car? She was like, no, 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 no. So I went and got the car on my own. Then, you know, I got in these financial situations, these bonds.
You didn't get the car on your own.
Shh, Mrs. Ellis.
He didn't get the car on his own.
Hey, just a minute. Just a minute. I'll get back to you.
So I went and got the car on my own, and then, you know, and then I was like, I found going to these financial situations. And then I came back to it when my car got repossessed. I said, I need you to help me get my car out of repossession. You know, I begged and I pleaded. Yeah, I cried too. Because it hurt me. You know, I was real hurt.
What were you hurt about? It's a car.
No, I was hurt because, you know, this is my mom's. I'm like, you know, she should have been there for me faster. But, you know, nevertheless, nevertheless, she was there in the long run, and I got my car out. She say she, well, supposedly loaned me the money, but, you know, she gave it to me because she rightfully, you know, she owed me it, buying me that junk car.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chrysynthia Ellis says her son James Ellis owes for an unpaid loan. James says he's got 4 kids to support.
Go ahead.
And then, you know, I gave her, I think, $500, $250, you know, to help her out, you know.
What do you mean to help her out? Help her out.
I mean to help her out because she gave me the money. You know, I'm just helping out. I'm saying, look, you know, you ain't working, and here's some money to help you out. And then, you know, I told her about the income tax thing, you know, when that came around, you know, situations come up. I got 4 kids, got a wife, got responsibility, you know, hey.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Ellis. So you have 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
How old are your 3 children?
3, 2, and soon to be 1.
Now, Mr. Ellis, do you make enough money to have 3 children?
I make enough to make ends meet, yeah.
When do you think it comes time for your mother to be able to put away for your mother and not to have to worry about a grown adult son who's old enough to be married, old enough to have a job, old enough to make 3 babies? When do you think that time comes?
I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you, there comes a time when children are supposed to say about their parents, listen, they've brought me to a certain point, right? My mother's not a rich lady. She should be able to put some money away so that when it comes time that she can no longer work or she needs money for her old age and her retirement, she has some money. She's got to stop bailing me out. You don't buy a car that you can't afford. If you have a wife, let your wife get a job instead of having another baby. You get a second job. If your wife can't get a job because she has 3 young children,
well,
because you have 3 young babies, what?
She's in school right now, you know?
Well, listen, Mr. Ellis, that's fine. All of that is not your mother's responsibility. All of that is your responsibility.
Well.
And the fact that your mother, let us assume that your mother bought you a car in 1999. 1999 wasn't so long ago. According to you, you were a father in 1999. All right, so you were a big grown-up guy. So she bought you a car in 1999, and it turned out to be a lemon. So you think that she owed you? She doesn't owe you anything. She doesn't owe you anything. She owed you to bring you along a certain point in your life, and after that, whatever she gives you is really a gift out of the goodness of her heart. But this was clearly a loan. It was a loan because you paid her back some.
That's because I was just looking out.
No.
I was looking out, being a nice guy.
No, when did you ever do that before, Mr. Ellis? I want to know when you ever did it before. When did you ever just gratuitously say to your mother, listen, here's $2,000, Mom. I want you to put it in your 401k.
Well, you know.
Well, you know, you don't, because you don't have anything extra. With 4 children and a wife who doesn't work and goes to school, you don't have anything extra. So this money that you gave her was not an extra money that you had. It was money that you owed her. Then she started to bug you about it because she's getting the bills every month and the interest is going up, and it's on her credit card. And then you had the gall to say to her, you won't see your grandchildren. What kind of business is that?
Well,
Why do you
it seemed
punish
like it wasn't good business at the time.
Why do you bring your children into it? What kind of a father brings their children into a dispute like that?
And I'm just saying, she's getting mad at me. I say, hey, case of the kids.
Well, but I'm asking you, Mr. Ellis, does that sound like a mature thing to you?
Wow.
Does that sound like a grown-up thing to you?
Well,
You know, your
can't
children
think back
enjoy their Hey, quiet, I'm speaking. You know, your wife may find you amusing, I don't. Your children enjoy seeing their grandmother. Why would you, as a good father, want to punish your children?
Because she's punishing me by harassing me about the money.
So, you're prepared to punish your little children because you don't like the way your mother is treating you. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're saying to me?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,873. Grow up, especially before you have any more babies.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was given, and she want to say it was alone. You know, it's just like a big conspiracy against me.
You have to crawl before you walk. He didn't want to crawl, he didn't want to walk, he wanted to fly, but I got mine in the end.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Akers, Buttry versus Hill. Step forward, please.
24-year-old student Christine Akers and her fiancé James Buttry are suing 42-year-old photographer Greg Hill for a refund of the deposit on their wedding photos. Christine and James say Greg botched the delivery of their engagement pictures and they don't trust him.
All right, who's going to do the talking?
Both of us.
No, I have a feeling you are.
Okay.
You folks are engaged and planning to get married next month.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, you hired the defendant to photograph your wedding. And he took some engagement pictures and promised them to you in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks turned into a couple of months.
Yes.
Didn't get the pictures. And you don't want them anymore. You want your deposit back?
Yes.
And some other damages, which you're not going to get. Forget the aggravation. You didn't have the aggravation because you didn't have him take your wedding pictures yet. When did you hire him?
We hired him on September 17th.
Did you sign a contract?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the contract?
No, I do not.
No, Your Honor. We never received one.
But you signed it?
Yes, Your Honor.
That you got through the mail?
I got it the day that we took the engagement session pictures. So when I saw him, I signed it, handed it to him, and he replied that he would get me a new one in the mail.
And he did not send one back?
He did not, no.
And how much a deposit did he take from you?
We wrote a check for $614.44, which we were told was 1/3 of the total amount of our photography.
For the entire wedding?
For the entire wedding.
Okay. So on September 17th, you hired him and took the engagement pictures?
No, we took the engagement pictures on October 6th.
When did he say you would get those proofs back?
We would get the proofs back.
When did he say you would get the proofs back?
2 weeks.
Okay. What happened after 2 weeks? Then you get into the third week in October. What happened?
After about the 4th week, we tried to contact him, and we contacted him for the next 7 weeks. Reached answering machine. He would return at a house when we asked to return to work and that type of thing.
What did you say on the machine?
We just want to know where our pictures were, and you said you would get them to us in 2 weeks. It's now been however many weeks, and then give me a call, please. I'm at home. I'll be here for X amount after this time.
When did he finally get in touch with you?
Around the week of November 12th.
And what did he say?
Well, actually, we spoke to Mrs. Hill. She said she would try to get the pictures out by Thanksgiving because we were leaving to go see family. We wanted the pictures before then.
And did she get them to you by Thanksgiving?
No.
When did he finally get the pictures to you?
We finally got the pictures hand-delivered to Jimmy's work.
On what date?
November the 27th, Your Honor. I had tried to reach him prior to Thanksgiving, left messages requesting that he did not put the pictures in the mail, that we would come to his house and pick them up before we left to go out of town. Left numerous numbers for him to reach me. When I got home that day, there was a message on my machine saying that he was going to put them in the mail that evening and we would receive them before the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. I immediately called and asked him to not do that. We would come get them.
So he came and actually brought them to you?
The Monday after Thanksgiving.
Monday after Thanksgiving?
Yes, Your Honor. I called the Wednesday we were about to leave, the day he told us we would have the pictures by. I left a message saying that, Your Honor, we are leaving to go out of town. We wanted to get our pictures by today. This is why we asked you not to mail them. Could we, trying to reach him to maybe come by and pick him up on our way out of town?
Okay, Mr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your answer, sir, you were going through a little internal stuff. You were downsizing your business. What does that mean, downsizing your business?
That means that I moved from a commercial location back into my home.
Well, what excuse do you have, sir, for not getting the pictures to them on time?
It was the studio's fault that we didn't get the photos to them on time. It was during this time when we were moving everything back from the commercial location to the house. It was miscommunication between the people in my office and myself. Their phone calls were returned on more than one occasion.
Yeah, but they didn't get their pictures.
They did eventually.
Mr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any question as to why they have a lack of confidence in you to do their wedding?
I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question, Judge.
How long have you been in the business, Mr. Hill?
20 years. And occasionally problems occur.
It's not occasionally. I want to tell you something. We've done 5 weddings. 5.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems it's endemic in the photography business. You're supposed to get your pictures back, your proofs back in 6 weeks from the wedding. A year later, people are still waiting for their proofs. But by that time, they have no choice because you're the only game in town. You're the one who took the pictures. So all these young couples wait. They wait for 2 months, 3 months, and 4 months, and 5 months, and 6 months, and they don't get them back. And you guys have them over a barrel. But here, these people had a preview. You were supposed to get their pictures back to them in 2 weeks, and it took 8 weeks to get proofs, engagement proofs. These are not whole wedding pictures, but just engagement proofs. Why should they continue with your services and buy into aggravation? Why?
Because it was an unusual circumstance.
That's not their fault. They wanted their pictures. Mr. Hill, I can understand you downsizing your business, but I can't understand why downsizing your business prevents you from getting their pictures to them in 3 weeks.
I have a staff that I was dependent on to do certain things also. When you photograph a volume of weddings and portraits and children, you have to leave some things up to other people, although it is ultimately my responsibility.
Right.
And once I found out, see, I was told that they were getting some of their calls returned. I didn't realize it was just some at the time.
What difference does it make if they got calls? They didn't get their pictures. So if you were told that they were getting some of their calls returned, Mr. Hill, then you knew that there was a problem that they hadn't gotten their pictures. So why didn't you at that point say, I'm going to get them their pictures immediately? Mr. Hill, these people told you that they wanted the pictures, the few pictures that you had taken, so that they could take them home for Thanksgiving. They didn't get them until after Thanksgiving. I find that you breached your agreement with them. And you should have, under the circumstances, said to them, I don't want any bad feeling. It was my fault, ultimately, whether it was my employee's fault or my fault. I don't want you to be unhappy. I do a lot of weddings, I do a lot of children, I do a lot of showers. I'll eat that day if I can't rebook it. But you only hopefully get married one time, and I want you to be happy. So you have to return their money to them, sir. $614.44. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 547 on the calendar in the matter of Wyke versus Polk. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Wyke, the defendant is your niece.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, your niece had been living with you.
Yes.
You went away on business for a couple of weeks. And it is your claim that either your niece or someone that she invited to your home destroyed some of your property. And the most expensive thing that was destroyed was your car.
Yes, a 95 Nissan Pathfinder.
And that was damaged because, according to you, the car was not in good running order, and you had brought it back to your home to just sit there until you could take care of it. It was not to be driven. Somebody, either the defendant or someone else, drove the car, and because it was driven with no oil, the engine seized or something happened to the engine. And the engine has to be replaced. Ms. Polk said somebody else did it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. How long was your niece living with you?
Ebony moved in with me in March, the middle of March.
Why?
I took Ebony out of a bad situation, Judge, and I let her come and stay with me. I was taking Ebony to and from work until I started having the trouble with the Pathfinder, which was in June. It started leaking oil, and I was told that by the mechanic I have here the estimate. I needed a real main seal rod bearing, a main bearing. Sure.
Because you're just reading that. You don't understand what all that is. Ladies usually don't understand what all this is. It just is, it doesn't run.
Yes, but that's why the Jeep was parked.
That's why it was parked?
Exactly.
Okay. So the original estimate back in June was $1,650 for parts and labor to fix the car at that time. So from middle of June until July the 6th, the car was just sitting.
Just sitting.
And your niece was living with you
She was still there.
And you were not giving her rides to and from work in this car?
No, she had to catch city transit.
Okay, so far is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh. And then when you went away on July 6th, were you going there for business or pleasure?
No, business. And I was gone for 2 weeks at the group home. Ebony asked if her best friend, Brandy, could stay in the home with her while I was gone. I had no problem with that. When I returned, my Jeep wasn't parked the way I had left it. And I knew then it had been moved. When Ebony came home that afternoon, I asked her what happened. And she told me that they drove that Jeep. And she had it towed back to my house.
What happened when you drove the Jeep, Ebony?
Well, I wasn't driving the Jeep. My friend Brandy was driving the Jeep.
Were you the passenger?
Yes.
So it doesn't make any difference. The two of you were in the car. Why did you take the car?
Because the fight had broke out at the house because I had a party. And, you know, a fight had broke out at the house, and I just said I had to go. It was still early, so we got in the Jeep and we went riding.
But you knew that you couldn't use the Jeep because you hadn't...
I know. I already know.
What do you mean you know, you know?
I know. I know the Jeep. I knew, I mean, I didn't know it was messed up like that because when we got ready to get in the Jeep, an oil leak, I looked under the Jeep and see if it any oil on the concrete. It was no oil. So therefore, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was major like that. So we got in, started driving. Before we could get back to the house, it just stopped. I towed it back to the house. I got it back, you know, I got it back to the, you know, property fine and all right, but I feel like...
Well, you didn't get it back fine and all right. It had to be towed.
Well, it got back. It was better than leaving it on the side of the road.
You have another estimate for the car?
Exactly. Your Honor, not only that, Ebony went in my daughter's bedroom. I have a handicapped daughter. I had just bought her a 50 CD changer, took that child's stereo out, put it in the den. Now I'm left to buy her another stereo. They demolished that. 5 of her CDs were taken. Only the cases are left.
I was not responsible for that. I mean, it wasn't my fault. I did not know the CDs were gone.
For anything.
And I didn't know the stereo was messed up until she told me about it.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What kind of fight broke out in the house?
Well, it was a little scuffle, and when the scuffle happened, I told everybody they had to go.
Well, how many people were everybody?
It was only meant to be a few friends, few of Brandy's friends. It ended up being about 50, 60 people, and I knew that wasn't, I knew that wasn't even gonna work. So I told everybody they had to go.
She didn't have permission to have anybody in my house.
Well, listen to me.
I have here.
You made a big mistake.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I admit I did.
How old are you?
19.
Okay.
I feel like it's not my fault. I ain't had nothing to do with it. I wasn't driving it. I feel like I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Well, what about the carpet and the furniture?
The carpet?
Don't answer her yet. I'm still adding.
I'm sorry.
Let us assume that the damages, Miss Polk, that your aunt is claiming to her carpet, to the CD changer, the CDs, which she has itemized at, well, it's less than $44.23. It's less than that because I'm deducting the original $16.50 that you were going to be charged to fix the car. Let us assume that all of that is correct. Carpet got stained because somebody spilled wine on it.
I offered to clean it, though, but she had a little attitude. I told her she had to wait till I got paid. But if she couldn't wait, she had an attitude. I got a mop and bleach, and I tried to get it up. It was some stains, but I told her I was going to get the stain cleaner. She couldn't wait. Oh, well.
Where are you living now?
I stay with my friend.
Good.
Thank you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rita White claims her niece Ebony Polk owes for the cost of a car engine and damage to her home. Rita says Ebony has a bad attitude.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have here where I had my carpet and furniture cleaned. I have the receipt here. I've already paid for that. Ebony feels like she's not responsible for anything.
Yes, I know that. What are we going to do about that?
Well, she cannot come back in my home.
Perfect.
There's no way.
Good.
I don't want to come back anyway.
She
I'm
shouldn't
fine
come
right
back
where
to
I'm
your
at.
home. Look, you spent $270 on the carpet.
That was the carpet and the furniture, the love seat and sofa.
And what
together.
about this CD changer?
Yes, that cost $279.
Do you have a bill for it?
No, I don't have that. The original price was like $319, but it was 6 months old because I bought it for her 25th birthday.
That was not my fault.
Well, whose fault was it? Tell me.
The gentleman who was in there who started the scuffle.
But I didn't tell
Shh, just a second. You allowed those people into your home.
I didn't know it was gonna be that many. I did not know all those people was coming. Brandy knew all those people was coming. I did not know. It was only supposed to have been a couple of people. Those was Brandy's friends. She is suing the wrong one.
Why didn't you call the police?
Because. Why?
What's a because?
Why? They were already gone. I didn't know who it was.
Oh. Listen to me. Some people are helpless. Some people are hopeless.
I am not hopeless.
Hopeless. Hopeless. Not helpless. Hopeless. Waste no more of your energy. You tried to do the right thing, didn't get there, doesn't get the message. She's got the attitude. It's never going to go away. You try to be a nice person. You said, invite your friend over. Don't stay alone. She abused your trust. She has no sense of right and wrong. She's 19 years old, so she's still young. But with that kind of an attitude, she's never going to change. Wash your hands and say, finito. And concentrate on your children, concentrate on your job, concentrate on what you do, concentrate on the fact that she owes you $3,038. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The Jeep was not my fault, and I'm not paying for that. And she knew that, so oh well.
All I can say is I love her. I love her, and I'll continue to pray for her.
She should have been talking to Brenda about that because those were her friends. She drove the Jeep, and it's her fault. Oh well.
I tried hard for Ebony.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Denny versus Waddell. Step forward, please.
26-year-old student Laquita Denny is suing her boyfriend's estranged wife, 35-year-old housekeeper Zanetta Waddell, for smashing out her car windows. Zanetta claims the only vehicle she vandalized that night was her husband's.
Ms. Denny, it is your claim that the defendant busted out all the windows on your car when she found her husband at your house.
Correct.
She says she busted out the windows of his car. So, why were you there? When did it happen? Why did you bust out the windows? And where's your husband?
He's in jail.
For?
Felonious assault, domestic violence.
Against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that after this incident when you busted out his car windows?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you and your husband living together?
No. We haven't been living together in over 7 years.
So what caused you to go over to the plaintiff's house? Because I assume that you went over to her house. You haven't lived with him. It's not as if you got up one morning and looked and saw he wasn't there.
Right.
So what were you doing over at her house?
Well, actually, I noticed my husband coming off of her street on a Saturday afternoon. I bowl on Saturday, so I came from bowling about 9 o'clock, 9:15. I went to the bar with my brother and my sister, had a couple of beers. It was about 11:30 when I called Miss Denny's house from my cell phone.
Why?
I seen my husband come off her street. Like I said earlier, I knew he had to have some type of involvement with her or been over her house in order for him to be coming.
But my question to you is, you haven't been together with your husband for 7 years.
Oh, it's not like we're not seeing each other or being together, because we still do have an involvement.
But you haven't lived together as husband and wife for 7 years. So you must know that he sees other people, you see other people.
Oh, him and Miss Denny has been in the relationship for the 7 years, but it's not been like just him and her. It's been all three of us. You know, it's like he's the center man. Well, he wants me and her to have confrontation.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. As I said, I called her house from my cell phone. They did not answer. I went to her house, his van, her car, both in the driveway, so I know they're both there. I pound on her back door They don't respond.
Why did you do that?
I wanted to talk to my husband. I wanted to know why he was there if they're not in a relationship anymore and he's no longer involved with her. Why are you at her house?
Go ahead.
Well, I called again from my cell phone 2 other times. They still refused to answer my call. Well, I know that I can get him out of there if I do something to his car. Well, I kicked his car. The alarm went off. They disarmed the alarm. I kicked it again. They done the same thing. Well, it was this little thing that you use to set your fireplace poker things on, sitting by the garbage dump. I went out and I got that, and I bust out his windshield. They still didn't respond. I bust out the passenger door window. Still no response. So I bust out, he has sliding doors on his Astro van. I bust out the big window. Still no response. So as I went to bust out the 4th window, that's when he come running out her back door, grabbed the poker thing from me. We're fighting over the pole. He hits me. I fall out. When I left her place of residence to go to the payphone to call the police, her windows weren't busted out then.
What were you calling the police for? You had just committed a crime.
My husband assaulted me.
You had just committed a crime.
He didn't press charges.
So you vandalize his car.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out and he hits you for vandalizing his car to get you away from the car.
And then he vandalizes my car.
When did he do that?
When I went to the phone, I left my car because in the process of him fighting me and we're tussling over this pole some kind of way, my keys fell out. I couldn't find my car keys to leave my car, so she's like a block away from a restaurant that has a payphone outside. I called the police from the payphone. They arrived within less than 3 minutes.
And he was arrested for domestic violence, and the domestic violence was that he hit you after you vandalized his car.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the first time he had been arrested for domestic violence?
Mm-mm.
I see something in the papers here that the two of you submitted, that there was a protective order that prohibited you from going to her home for a period of time. Is that right?
My protection order had gotten over.
Is that right?
No.
That there was a protective order, not in place at that time, but she had a protective order prohibiting you from coming to her home.
No.
According to you, your answer, there was a restraining order against me regarding Lakita that had ended 4 months before.
It did not come from her, Your Honor. It came from my parole officer.
I don't care who it came from.
But once my parole ended...
Just a minute. Now, you said that that came from your parole officer. What kind of parole?
I was on parole for felonious assault.
Against whom?
Laquita.
Now, what kind of car do you have?
Oldsmobile 86.
Well, I think that you were so angry, madam, you got the wrong car. Or maybe you were so enraged, you didn't know what you hit. But you certainly got her car. Maybe his too. Let me see the estimate of the damage, please.
It's the estimate and also the receipt of what I paid for.
When did she assault you?
She assaulted me in July of '97.
Were you incarcerated for that assault?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
3 years.
That's a serious assault. What kind of injury did you have?
I had a cut across my face, numerous cuts on my arms, and my ear was halfway off.
Prior to 2 years of me cutting her, she cut me.
I cut her because she came in my house. She busted out my car windows then, busted out my house windows, and came inside my house, and I cut her. That's why I was never charged.
Do you have children?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 5.
How old are they?
18, 16, 13, 11, and 10.
Did they all live with you?
Yes.
So why would you risk going to jail again by going to her house?
I'm not risking going to jail again going to her house.
Sure you were. You went to her house and you vandalized property on her property.
Belonging to my husband.
Listen, he better be some prize for you to put yourself in harm's way with this lady who's missing a few screws.
He must
Do you understand?
be. You keep coming over there.
No, listen to me. For you, he must be some prize, because I certainly wouldn't tolerate it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $405 for the windows. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 574 on the calendar in the matter of Ross versus Carter. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Ross, you and Miss Carter have been having trouble for a very long time. You want to tell me how you know each other?
Okay, it all started with an ex-boyfriend that I used to have. Me and him just got into it too many times, so I told him to go back to his baby mama. That's her sister, Amete Carter, the witness.
And how long ago was that?
It's been an ongoing thing between me and him, but he's now, now in jail. So it's been 2 years me and him haven't been messing around.
All right. You have a problem with his sister?
No, it's my ex-boyfriend's girlfriend's sister.
Ex-boyfriend's girlfriend's sister.
Right.
That's you.
That's me.
In any event, according to what I read here, the two of you have mutual restraining orders against each other because there's evidently been a past history of acting out behavior on the part of both of you. And you, Miss Ross, claim that on a particular date, the defendant harassed you, damaged your car. She says you were harassing her, you damaged her car. There is a claim and a counterclaim. Tell me how long these mutual restraining orders have been in effect.
Since January the 2nd of 2002.
And tell me about this date when you claimed that your car was damaged.
On March the 6th, 2002.
All right, now I'm going to let each of you tell me your version of what happened. Go!
Okay, I was leaving my mother's house because I just got off of work. I was going to take my kids to go get them some tennis shoes, so I was on my way to my grandma's house to let my aunt know that I was coming this weekend to pick up my table. So next thing I know, I observed, you know, this little green car behind me. So I was like, okay, why is she behind me? So then I got out my car and I took her picture.
Why did you do that?
For evidence. The police always told me to make sure I have evidence of her harassing me.
So you keep a camera in your car?
Keep a camera at all times.
So she was behind you, you stopped your car, and you jump out and you go click, 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 and then you get back in your car.
Yes.
Then what happened?
Then I proceeded to go. Then she flew around everybody else to try to get in front of me. So at that time, she finally got in front of me, started slowing down, but I seen her, so I slowed down. I said, because she's not going to catch me that way, saying that I'm harassing her. So she sat at the stop sign, just sitting there. So when I pulled up, she's getting out of her car, snapping pictures, walking towards me, telling all the other cars to go past, go on, because she just
So then she's taking your picture?
Yes.
Go ahead.
But at that time, she's steadily approaching my car. Well, I have my two kids in the car. So talking about, I got you now, and all other kind of little stuff, so I wasn't paying her no attention. So I went ahead, went around her. So when I got to the next block over, where my grandmother stayed, I turned. Next thing I know, I'm observing her coming right behind me. So I got out my car again and took her picture. Next thing I know, I'm still watching her coming past me. She's mumbling something through her window. Then next thing I know, she tried to hit me, so I ended up jumping into my car and making a dent in my door. Then next thing I know, she just literally just turned her car into my front end and then took off. And then after that, that's when she almost hit their car. She got out her car to look at, see what was wrong with her car, and took off. So next thing I know, I'm calling the police. They came, and then they took a report. And then they asked to speak to my witnesses. And then that night...
That's not how anything happened.
Now
I don't know.
I'll hear you. I'm listening.
I'm going over my sister's house, which is near Mrs. Ross' grandmother's house. I'm out minding my business because it happened on a Wednesday. My sister was supposed to go to surgery and have things done to her the next day. So to comfort both me and my sister in this predicament that we're having, you know, I just wanted some comfort there between her and me. And we just ended up together. A block and a half up, she gets out of her car and take my picture and call me a stupid B. So when the light turned green, I sat up there and I got out my left lane and got in the right lane to make a right to go to my sister's house. So I was not following her. I don't know where she's getting this following and harassment stuff from. Miss Ross follows me up there. She takes the turn. I got out of my car and I took a picture of her. And I told her, are we going to take Kodak pictures of each other all night? I was like, leave me alone.
No, you didn't say that.
I got in my car. There's a four-way stop sign. So I let the other cars go, thinking that maybe she was going to go where she had to go and mind her business after this little, you know, after the picture taking. She done stopped her car, got out of her car with her car door open and started kicking my car. I stopped my car and I got out of the car and I asked her, why are you kicking my car? Why are you messing with me? She gets scared because I'm about to approach her because I was going to break her neck. Yeah. She gets in her car and she jumps the curb and hit my car. Then when I'm going to my car, I hear, she hit my car. She hit my car. I'm looking back. She's on the cell phone calling the police like I did something. So I went up the street to my sister's house and called the police. No, I did not.
You don't speak to each other, speak to me.
So I went to my sister's house and I called the police and the police came out there and made a report.
Okay, now which one of these witnesses doesn't know either one of you?
I don't need to know her.
Okay, so I'll hear you first. Tell me your name.
My name is Chantel Pittman.
Miss Pittman, you don't know the plaintiff?
No, I don't.
I never saw her before this date in March.
Right, I didn't meet her until that day.
Okay, tell me what you observed that day.
Well, me and Miss Brookins was in Miss Brookins' car, and we were waiting for my daycare van to come to pick up my kids. And we seen the headlights coming, and we looked in the rearview mirror, and we was like, She just hit her car. Did you just see her hit her car?
Well, tell me exactly what you saw.
The black car was here parked. We seen the green car come around and hit the black car on the driver's side. And she pulled up behind Mrs. Brookins' car, got out of her car, left her door open, walked around to her passenger side to check to see if she had anything in her car, got back in, and when she took off, she almost hit Miss Brookins' car on the passenger side.
Would you step up here? Tell me your last name, please.
Doretta Brookins.
Miss Brookins, who was driving that day?
I was.
And you waited around to give information to the police?
Correct.
That was very nice of you.
Thank you.
If I were to ask you the same questions that I just asked the previous witness, would your testimony be the same?
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated. Do you have the police reports?
Yes.
Let me see the police report, please.
That's both of ours.
And can I see the damage to your car? And the estimates, please.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Ms. Ross is stating that I'm harassing her because of my sister's husband. And I don't see how and why is it every time that something happens, I'm always in the middle of it because I don't do anything to her. I'm not the only person that Mrs. Ross also harasses due to a man that she hasn't been with for the last 10 or 15 years.
Judge, she wouldn't know that she wouldn't go to the police files.
Listen to me. Listen to me, Ms. Carter. It's clear to me that you were responsible for the damage to the bumper on her car. I'm dismissing your counterclaim because I don't believe she hit your car. The question is, are you totally responsible? And the answer is, I do not believe you are totally responsible. I believe that both of you acted badly. However, you started the trouble. You started the trouble by getting out of your car and starting to take her picture and calling her a couple of names instead of you saw the green car behind you. Make sure you don't go anywhere near where she's going. But two of you engaged in conduct that was so childlike. You jumped out of your car first, start snapping a picture. Then she starts snapping your picture. Then you snap her picture, then she snaps your picture. And to make matters worse, you have children in your car, acting like a fool. If you really feel as if she's harassing you, drive over to the police station.
It was too far.
Drive directly over to the police station. See if she follows you there. And if she follows you there, she's a fool. And if she doesn't, then you've avoided conflict. What you didn't do was avoid conflict.
But can I show you something else? This is how much she is a troublemaker. I have her little record of her history of how much of assault and battery and her...
I don't have no assault and
Listen
battery.
to me. All may be true, Miss Ross. I mean, I'm looking at your claim now. The damage to your car was only $700. The $1,000 you wanted
for the harassment, because I'm
is for the harassment. Just listen to me. If you told me that you saw her car, so you drove directly to the police station in order to avoid any possible conflict in front of your children, and she followed you and she hit your car, I would rule entirely differently. But that's not what happened. You engaged her. You engaged her, and you started the engagement by getting out of your car, taking her picture, and exchanging words with her. That doesn't excuse her conduct, but that's saying to you, you're not really being smart. If you were afraid of her,
thank you.
You drive over to the police, and she does the same thing. I mean, she's sitting there smiling. She does the same thing. As I said, I'm dismissing the counterclaim. But I'm also dismissing that part of your claim of $1,700 that asked for $1,000 in harassment. And I'm only attributing half of the damage to your car to her. Because as far as I'm concerned, you should have kept on driving.
I did. I was going to my grandmother's house. She should have never turned down my street.
No. You should have kept on driving. You got out of your car, placing your children at risk to take her picture.
Okay, why did she get out of her car?
Listen, life is very short. You'll get lecture 304 now. Life is very, very short. You can either spend it fighting or you can spend it loving. The two of you are never going to love each other. But if you want to devote your energies to this kind of nonsense, I mean, what are you laughing about? How old are you?
I'm not laughing.
How old? Yes, you are.
No,
How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. How old are you?
31.
Well, so you're young. You're not supposed to create friction in your lives. That's just stupid. Do you know what happens when you spend your life in conflict? You end up looking old much too soon. It's over. There's no reason for you to have any contact with each other. End it.
Yes.
Don't be stupid. Put your hand. Do I need you? I don't need you. I don't want you. Don't be stupid. End it. Put a period. No man is worth it. Husband, brother, boyfriend, whatever, especially one that's in jail.
Thank you.
Even if they're not in jail, they're usually not worth it.
Thank you.
So put a period and move on. That's all. Goodbye.
What is our excuse? You may step out.
She just need to go on about her way, stop being ignorant and childish and stupid, and just leave me alone.
She's mad because I'm with a man that don't want her, ain't never wanted her, and she just sick with it. She got problems.
She trying to take up her sister's battle, but like I said, if I catch her, I'm gonna get her.
She's 31. She needs to move on.
Move on with her life.
Bye-bye.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Griffiths versus Giles. Step forward, please.
Alan and Tanya Griffiths are suing former friend, 32-year-old bartender Ken Giles, for stealing their honeymoon money. Ken says he didn't do it.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Griffiths, according to your complaint, the defendant, who had been either a friend or an acquaintance of yours, agreed to be the bartender at your wedding. On the wedding bar, according to you, there were 2 jars. One contained a jar for tips for the defendant, and the other jar was something called a honeymoon jar, where guests would come to put money, I assume, for your honeymoon.
Yes.
Is that right? And it is your claim that the defendant helped himself to your honeymoon jar.
Yes, ma'am.
To the tune of $1,500. All right, so let's get to this very quickly. Prove it.
Well, here's a list of just the ones that I could get a hold of, what they had put in there, their phone numbers, and my witness here also seen him putting money in places where not the jar.
You never saw anything?
Not as far as him taking anything personally.
Okay, good. Step up. Name?
Trisha Good.
All right, Miss Good. Tell me what you observed with regard to this.
I saw Ken put money under the can, and then later on I seen him putting money in his pockets. Earlier before...
No, let's go slowly. You saw him put money underneath the can. He's standing behind the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Where did he get the money from?
The people at the wedding.
You mean people would hand him money?
They all knew that it was...
Don't tell me what anybody else knew. I'm asking you for your observations.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You saw guests hand him money.
Yes.
And you saw him place the money under the can.
Yes.
How many times did you see that?
Once.
What else did you see?
Earlier before that, he didn't have gas money, and then later on he had money in his pockets.
There was also a tip jar, was there not?
Yes, there was.
And people gave him tips?
I don't know.
But they might have.
They could have.
And that could have been the money that he used for gas.
Could have been.
Right. So what you actually saw was somebody hand him money. Did you see how much money they handed him?
No.
You saw a bill, more than one bill?
I didn't see. I just seen green.
You just saw green, so you don't know if it was $1 or $10.
Yeah. But his tip jar was at the front of the bar. They wouldn't have handed him the tips. They would have put their own tips in there. The donation for the honeymoon was behind the bar.
So that nobody could reach that jar?
Yes.
Nobody?
Except for Ken or Susan.
Really? Okay. Now, let's hear.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, as far as the honeymoon jar, it wasn't a donation. What they were doing was charging $2 for mixed drinks.
No, you were charging for mixed drinks. You were selling
Yeah,
them.
you were. They were charging $2 for mixed drinks. So we got there, and there was no money whatsoever to bartend with. I had to ask my girlfriend here to borrow some money so we could make change for people. Okay,
That's
and
a lie.
So when we got there, she gave me 10 ones, and I put it in the jar there or whatever.
What jar?
The actual bar jar. Okay, we're talking about 2 different jars.
We're talking about 2 different. One was for your tips. I assume
Yes.
that had a sign on it that says tips.
Yes, ma'am.
And the other one was a can, a coffee can.
Yes, ma'am.
Did people hand you money and say to you, put that money in that can?
No, ma'am. The only reason they ever handed me money was either for a tip or because they had bought a drink.
Okay. Did you ever take any money out of the can?
Yes, I did. I took back the $10 that Susan had given to us.
Sit down. Go ahead.
Also, I'd gone to the store twice, which I brought back receipts for Mr. Griffith. And during the course of the evening, I also informed Mr. Griffith that Tricia had been going back to behind the bar and just totally cleaning it out. She'd done that 2 or 3 times.
Well, just a second. Mr. Griffiths, Mrs. Griffiths, it's very possible that he did. I don't know. And you can't prove it. You may
Well,
assume.
people seen him.
Don't tell me what other people... I heard what she saw. She saw him take green that someone handed him and put it under the coffee can. That's what she testified to. Now, I don't know whether that money that was handed to him was intended to be a tip, and it's very possible that he helped himself to a couple of bucks out of this can. I don't know, but more importantly, this is a court, and you can't prove it. Do you understand?
Well, I could prove how much was supposed to be in there, and I could
No,
prove
you
how
can't.
much he tried to hand me.
No, you can't, sir. All you can do is tell me what the people later, after the wedding, told you.
No, a couple of them told me during the wedding. They even showed me the money they put in there before they went over there.
And when he tipped his girlfriend for helping him out that night, he tipped her with a $20 bill. Who's going to come up to the bar and order a drink and tip him $20?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
I don't know. Your problem is you cannot prove it. You cannot establish what he took.
Well, see,
if he took anything, because you have no proof.
As far as him saying that she emptied it.
Get over it. You cannot prove it.
But see, when she took the money from it, she told me that she was going to empty it because she knew that something was going on.
We knew what was going on the whole time, but we weren't going to sit there and babysit because...
And what you were supposed to do is, if you knew what was going on all the time, then what you
It wasn't.
do is
It was. That was like the last 2 hours.
I'm speaking. You see my mouth moving?
Mm-hmm.
If you knew what was going on all the time, then you say, I'm taking this can away.
We didn't know all the time. It wasn't
Good.
until like the last hour.
Well, I don't know now. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He stole the money and he had him arrested.
Mr. Griffith ended up going to jail over threatening my life.
The guy obviously knows he stole the money. Where else did it go?
Try to help somebody out, and this is the thing she get.
He's just mad because I want to sleep with him.
That would not be true.
He's a scrub. He's nasty.
The bride's sister, she doesn't like me. She has never liked me being with my girlfriend.
I told Alan not to hire him.
Anybody
ripped
that
off
steals
his
from their
aunt.
own sister
He's ripped
or
off
their
his
aunt.
sister. He ripped off his niece.
I think she took it, to be honest with you.
If somebody looks like that, don't bring him to your wedding.
If you have some friends, don't ever get money involved because it always ends up in a bad place.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Blocker Thomas. Step forward, please.
35-year-old administrator Gina Johnson is suing 30-year-old nurse Crystal Blocker Thomas for the cost of a wedding veil.
Miss Johnson, were you and the defendant friends before you loaned her your veil? Your
Yes,
wedding veil?
acquaintances for about 8 years.
Acquaintances, but not good friends.
No.
It's your complaint that you loaned her your wedding veil. She was getting married, and when she finally got around to returning it after many requests, it was ruined, and you want the value of it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'd like you to tell me when you agreed to loan her your veil.
We played basketball together in a women's basketball league, and our league had just ended. It was about March. And probably around the mid of March, we went to a restaurant and discussed that she was getting married sometime in July and how expensive it was to get married. And I explained to her that I knew a lot of ways to cut costs, and I had some items that she could borrow. And I had not heard from Crystal after we had that lunch until the morning of her wedding, and that was sometime in July. She called me at 6:45 a.m., spoke to my husband. She called back about 9:15 that morning, and I explained to her, you know.
What did she say to you when you spoke to her at 9 o'clock in the morning?
She says, "Hi, Gina, this is Crystal. I'm calling you because I would like to borrow your wedding veil. You remember when we had the conversation about borrowing the veil?" And I said, "Yes, I do." I said, "When you get married?" She says, "Today." And I said,
so you were not really close friends because you weren't going to the wedding.
Right, correct.
So you're just acquaintances.
Right.
So go ahead.
And so when I talked to her on the phone, I said, "Well, Crystal, I have plans today. You know, you're getting married today. What time?" And I believe she said about 4 o'clock. And I'm a woman of my word. I said that she could borrow it. I was going to let her borrow it. I didn't want to leave her out. And so about that time, I told her, "Okay, I've got plans. You need to meet me closer to my home." She agreed to meet me about, I guess it was about noon. And I met her, gave her my veil in its original plastic bag on a hanger hanging in mint condition. And she got out of the car and across the street and gave her my veil. I said, "Congratulations. Get this back to me as soon as you can." She says, "No problem. Thank you."
Okay, so you had your wedding?
Yes.
Now you say she gave you the veil.
Yes.
Well, let me hear, because the wedding, it's clear that the veil must have come back in terrible condition, which you'll show me in a minute. Tell me about your recollection of the conversation that took place in July when you got married.
Okay, we were at Ken Ride's, and as she stated, we were talking about the wedding. Gina just openly said, "Crystal, if you need anything, I have so many things that I'm not going to use again. They're not, you know, they're going to be totally obsolete. So if you need anything, just call me, and I'll be more than willing to give you whatever I have." She said, "Because I know I'm not going to use it again." So I said, "Okay, well, I don't believe I need too much because I'm pretty much finished."
You called her the day of your wedding?
Yes.
And you told her you didn't have a wedding veil? Had you forgotten to get a wedding veil?
No. Well, I guess I did forget because I wasn't going to wear a piece. I wasn't going to wear a headpiece.
And then you decided to wear a headpiece?
Right.
So you called her first thing in the morning?
No, I called her about because I went to go get my hair done first thing in the morning. And the way she did my hair, I realized a veil would probably look better.
So you called her and asked her for hers?
I asked her, did she have one? Because we never discussed that I would use her veil. I asked her, did she have one? And she said, as a matter of fact, I do.
When she gave you the veil, she gave it to you on a hanger?
She gave it to me on a hanger with 2 safety pins in it.
And it was covered with plastic?
A trash bag, not a bridal bag.
It was covered with plastic?
Yes.
And it was in perfect enough condition for you to use that day. I assume you used it. I assume you used it that day.
I didn't use the entire veil. I altered it.
What do you mean you altered it?
Because we let her know, because I was with my friend Tamara that dropped me up, that was doing the driving rather. And she let me know, Tamara let her know this will
Where's
not
Tamara?
work. This is Tamara right here.
Step up. Did you ever tell the plaintiff that you were going to change, alter, cut, modify the veil?
Yes, ma'am, we did mention that day because when we...
No, I want you to tell me what you said, because she said she didn't say anything.
Well, when I looked at the veil, I said the headpiece would have to come off because of how Crystal's hair was done that day, because it's a headband type headpiece. It would not go over her hair.
And when did you tell that to the plaintiff?
Right when we got out the car, because we were both out of the car, and actually...
Did she tell you that?
No, Your Honor. The first time I saw her, she was behind the wheel. I had never spoke to her.
Did they ever tell you that they were going to do anything to alter your headpiece?
No, Your Honor.
Of course not. Let me see how they returned it, please.
Your Honor, and I also have my friend Teresa Cackley, who is here as a witness, who heard the original conversations.
I don't care what the original conversation was. Nobody gives a stranger their wedding veil. Now, when it was returned to you, I read your complaint, and you said that this is just a piece of... Where's the whole piece?
She still has it, Your Honor, and that's a headpiece.
This is the actual headpiece.
When it was returned to you, it was returned to you in a garbage bag full of other things?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why?
I didn't return it to her. My husband brought it to the gym because she was talking badly about me to her.
Because she wanted her wedding veil back. Why didn't you give it back to her?
She let me have it. Why would I give it back if she let me have it?
Listen, is that also a piece from her wedding veil?
No, this is how we auctioned it. This is the actual necklace that went on the veil. As you can see, we just...
Just a minute. Was that originally on the veil when she gave it to you?
No.
That?
No.
That was your piece?
Yes.
Now, this has nothing to do with money. So I want you just to answer my question. Do you have all the pieces now that you had from your veil?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
What is missing?
As you can see, someone picked the pearls off the back of it. You can see where some of them were glued here, and they've been removed off the veil.
So there's no way that, I mean, you're going to get your money. There's no way you're not going to get your money, whatever the cost of the veil was, because Miss Thomas is not operating with a full deck. I never heard of any young woman who thought that she borrowed either a wedding dress from an acquaintance, not a friend, not a best friend, not somebody who was invited to the wedding, from an acquaintance, borrowed a wedding veil, borrowed shoes, borrowed a bag, and then said, oh, it's mine. I can now treat it like garbage. You're absolutely outrageous, and your husband is a bigger slob by returning it in that garbage bag to her with some old dead flowers in it. Was there wedding cake in there, too?
Your Honor, that is her bouquet that she returned and did not know it was in the bag. And that's the only way I could get her to return my calls, that she wanted her bouquet back.
Really? Why did you want your bouquet back? No. Just answer my, don't think about it. Just tell me, why did you want your bouquet back?
Because it's my bouquet. And
oh! So it's your bouquet.
Right.
And you want it back. Sue for it. Sue for it. I want you to listen to me very carefully. You're going to be unsuccessful.
Okay.
You want to know why? Because your husband gave it to her.
Well, she gave me her veil.
No, she didn't.
She never said it was
she didn't. You just told me your husband gave her this entire bag. I am finding that she loaned you the veil, which you destroyed. But it's so interesting to me, Miss Thomas, that you say, well, it's my bouquet from my wedding. I want it back. And you can't understand why really a stranger who was being nice to you gave you her wedding veil, which is expensive, which was lovely, and you think, she gave it to me, and I don't have to give it back to her. So, you want those flowers? I suggest you file a lawsuit. I hope it doesn't come before me, because if it comes before me, you're not going to get it back because your husband gave it to her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested. The veil is worth at least $220. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may...
Mituputra, Miamitu, 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 Mituputra, Miamitu, 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 Miamitu,